And
Okay.
she sang when she was 5 or 6 years old, and she sang "All I Want for Christmas Is My Two Front Teeth."
Nice.
Her birthday was the 23rd of December.
Oh, nice.
But
I have
yeah,
that
then we
very-
used to have barn dances in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know there was any pictures of this. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, if you want to talk about some of those pictures, and there's a lot in there.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
But I was in and out of Hayesville
Okay.
from the first grade clear up till I moved back here and finally wound up going to Wichita East High School.
Mm-hmm.
And I rode with Edgar Wire, by the way. Me and Mary Lucille Allred
Oh.
rode to school. That's where we got to school. We rode up there and then took the bus over to the school.
Now, who did you say was Edward or Ed?
Edgar Wire.
Oh,
Bill
Wire.
Gardner. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, he had an office up there. I don't know what he did, but actually, Marie Allred, or Marie Howe, and Bruce Clark, we rode all of us with him sometime.
Mm-hmm.
But this is all a lot about when there's building stuff. Hayesville was growing.
Yeah. I was talking to Betty Turkle, and
Oh,
she
I
was
know.
saying Ruth got to go to East because her dad, Fred, didn't think Clearwater was good enough.
Oh, really?
So let's have you go uptown to East. So
Okay, well,
Yeah.
we rode together part of the time, and then one time one of the coaches from East High, he lived over there on the Hemp Hill place, over there where the bank is and all that now,
Oh,
and we rode with him some too.
okay.
So we just, however we could get there,
Sure.
because we didn't have cars. I didn't.
Yeah. Wow.
Okay, I don't remember this. Is this down at 71st and Broadway?
The Phillips?
Wait a minute, it says. It doesn't say. There was a filling station down there where Subway is
Uh-huh.
for a long time, and it was run by Ben and Effie Diedrich.
Oh,
But I don't remember what it looked like. It may have looked like that.
yeah.
Yeah. Their kids wanted to make their mom and dad an album.
Oh, okay.
And is this a gun?
It looks like a cannon.
Yeah. Wonder where that was. I don't remember seeing that.
Riggs Park, I think.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Oh, it looks a lot bigger. Yeah, they take that cannon away?
No, I think it's still there.
Oh, okay.
Oh. Anyway,
Noticed it lately.
so I got all these pictures out, and you wouldn't believe all the albums I've got in my family.
Wow.
I said my kids will take 6 months going through my pictures when I'm gone.
Now, is there any historic pictures we need to make copies of?
I don't know. I think there's some in some of them, but
Mm-hmm.
So this weekend I saved Lucy Gubitz's piano for the future Methodist Church,
oh
hopefully.
really?
Yeah.
Somebody asked me if I knew. I think it was Danny asked me if I knew what it looked like inside, and I can't really remember. I know it was Methodist, so there wasn't a baptistry, but it had a basement.
Yeah.
I think it was just a platform stage, you know, and the pews and things. But they were, pretty sure they were pews, not chairs.
No, they were pews. We
Yeah.
we had an open house way back again.
Uh-huh.
It was probably in the 80s. And so we got to go back in it.
Oh,
'Cause
did you?
The Baptists did buy it. And then
Yeah.
they did put a basement
Did they,
under
there,
it.
one time it was, before it blew away, was an Indian chapel or something for a while. Indian mission. Because they had a sign up.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, it was a couple different churches. And we could have bought it and then transferred over to where the Methodist church is now and put it on that lot, but
Uh-huh.
you know, not enough money.
Oh, I know.
'Cause
Well,
it's
yeah.
expensive. I'm looking for
Now,
your wedding photo.
Danny told me that Ronnie Kane,
Mm-hmm.
because he works with Ronnie,
Mm-hmm.
Danny told me that Ronnie Kane said that who was it? Somebody he knows was, knows a lot about the Methodist Church and its
Well,
background. but-
Ron goes to the Methodist church still. He
Who?
Ron,
Oh, does he? Yeah.
and he plays in our little band.
Does he?
But yeah, I was wanting to interview his aunt. I think she's maybe the only one left.
Who? Norma Jean or
Ooh,
Louise?
oh man, it might be Louise, he said.
Louise, I think, was the younger girl.
Okay.
So I didn't know. I hadn't heard anything about him for a long, long time.
Yeah, he's well and good.
Wonder where he lives.
I don't know where he lives.
Hmm.
Yeah, somewhere, in Hayesville, I believe. We've got Ricky. He goes to our church, Ricky Vreeland.
Does he?
Yeah, Ricky still.
Oh
Yeah.
my goodness, his mom was my first grade
Yeah,
teacher.
Leela Vreeland, and she
Yes.
was a great lady.
Yes, she was.
Yeah. Yeah, she taught Sunday school and Bible school. And that was Ruth's teacher too.
Yes,
Leela, yeah.
Yeah.
There's Leela right
Oh, yeah.
there. Yeah.
Picture of that.
Oh, okay.
Mhm. Okay.
Yeah, when I went to it the first time, it was like I was in the first grade, and she wasn't married yet. Her maiden name was O'Donnell.
Okay.
Now, you'll see, well, the kids' pictures are in there because they was in our wedding.
Yeah.
But I didn't know that either one of them was still around. Of course, I'm older than them, so they could be. Wonder what happened to Darlene.
Show me your wedding picture in there.
Oh,
Find it.
right here.
That one right there. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you are.
Yeah, there we are. But when I first went to Hayesville, there's a lot of stuff in that book. A lot of people I know
Mm-hmm.
that are in that book that did not live in Hayesville. And I'm talking, when I went to Hayesville School the first time, in the first grade, we lived down on Jeff Sinn's place, which was a mile south. Okay, so I walked half a mile that way and a mile north over there at the old brick schoolhouse. Then we moved away. You got to remember, these were the Depression years.
Mm-hmm.
And it was hard times. And my folks, we moved a lot because we had to, find work. And we left there, and then we came back. And I think that's when I went to when we lived in the Wire House. Then I went down there to school again. I was about in the fourth grade because I was in the second room upstairs this time. The second room. So I had to be in the fourth grade, I'm pretty sure. Fourth or fifth grade.
Are you saying in the little red brick?
Yes, the one that was a mile south.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh. Because this other one, this
Mm-hmm.
frame one,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where it was. I never saw it.
Walter Branch says that's the old schoolhouse right there that he used to live in on
Oh, really?
79th there.
Yes.
Uh-huh. He says
Yeah,
if
we
you
used
go
to
up
buy
in there,
milk from Branches.
okay, yeah, go upstairs and on some of the rafters, there's some signatures of some of the old,
Oh, my goodness.
students there
Mhm.
from Hayesville,
Really?
like Maynard.
Okay.
and,
Maynard Hemphill?
And he wanted to know at one time if we wanted to buy it,
Oh,
but because he was going to build another house,
I see.
but it was too much.
Yeah.
So now he's sold it and somebody else.
Across the road, when his dad was still living, and my dad took care of him. And that's how come I went to to that school. Well, okay, then the next time we moved back, I think was when we lived, there was a building, and I think it was an old boxcar. It had been made into a house because Long only had 2 rooms in it. Set there by where that church is along the slough over there, is on the Hurley place.
Oh.
And we lived there, and I walked to school there also. And then we moved away again. Next time we came back, I lived up here where the big ditch is now. There was a place up there that had a little filling station, and my dad ran it.
Oh my. Okay.
And that time, I went to blood school.
Okay.
There was a school up there, I guess you know about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Read
I
about
went
it.
to blood school.
Okay.
And so, and then Audrey Bayer
Mhm.
down there was running the post office.
Right.
And she put my dad in touch with some people at Belle Plaine. Because my dad was a butcher by trade. He went broke in a grocery store and right soon after I was born. Because he let people charge their food and then they didn't pay. But anyway. And so we moved from there, then we moved to Belle Plaine, and we was down there until I was in high school.
Okay.
Then we came back, and my dad built the locker plant down there in the corner, which I don't think that I have pictures of it, but there's probably not any in here of it.
Oh.
But it was a meat processing plant, and people bring their livestock in, and Daddy butchered them. So we lived there until we lived there until I got married and moved up here. I've been here ever since, which was 1947.
Okay.
So, but yeah, I know a lot of the people in that book.
Sure.
But yeah,
Okay. Well, I'm going to get to these questions.
oh boy,
Kind of
okay.
go in order. Good
Okay.
conversation so far. Okay, what is your name and how old are you, if you want to disclose that?
I don't mind at all.
Okay.
Lavona Benner, and I will be 88 here in a couple of weeks.
Oh, good.
22nd actually. It's not that long off.
No.
Yeah.
All right. Well, happy birthday.
Thank you.
Early.
I'll take it.
Were you raised in Hayesville?
Well, I guess you could say off and on
Okay.
because in and out, like I said.
Because of the Depression.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
My dad, after he went broke in the grocery store, we had to go wherever he could find work.
Right. Okay. What was it like to live in Hayesville when you were a child?
Well, Hayesville was small. It was 2 streets. Just the one that is an extension of Seneca down along the railroad track, and then the other one there where the Historical Society is being set up now. That's all there was to it.
Okay.
And so we had the Boffman store. You know, it was there, and the elevator,
Mm-hmm.
and that was it.
Wow.
Well, the community house and the community building and the churches, of course, was there. But, yeah, blacksmith shop just like it is now.
Okay.
I had a crush on Howard Ward when we lived there. He was so cute when he was little.
When I first joined the historic committee, Howard was on the committee.
Was he really?
Yeah.
I didn't know whatever happened to him. I didn't
Yeah.
know if he was still around.
Died of cancer.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
Huh.
Okay, the next question. What do you feel was important to the community when you were a young adult starting your family?
Well, that's kind of a tough one. I guess it would be schools,
Okay.
but of course, by the time we had kids, Hayesville was starting to build schools.
Mm-hmm.
So, those schools and then church, of course, because we went to the Methodist church. There wasn't a Baptist church there. We were Baptist by, choice, but we went to Methodist church. But yeah, and then I guess we got after Buffman's store, after it wasn't around, there was some a family, a man and his wife, I think, had a little store, and their name was Edson. It was on the south side there, along in there where the bank is now,
Okay.
south side of 71st Street. they had a little store there, and so we traded there a lot. And then the only other store there was up the road before you get to 55th. There was one Lamb's Market.
Okay.
There was a market up there, but that was it. And of course, we had the bank, and we've always banked there.
Mhm.
I got some promissory notes from Fred Stearns.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Yeah, you had to have something to mortgage when you borrowed money.
Mhm. Okay. So the Boffman store, what did you sell there?
We didn't sell anything to Bachman's store. We traded there.
You traded there. Okay.
Yeah. He was still alive when we got married.
Okay. So was it like a grocery store, hardware?
Yeah, just like the picture shows. It never changed.
Mm-hmm.
Because I remember you'd go in there and you could buy bulk beans yet.
Okay.
You know, scoop them out, weigh them up.
Okay.
And then he did have later, he had a man came in and put in a meat market place in the back end of it. I think his name was Woodside.
Okay.
But yeah, he still had all these old harnesses hanging up around and
Okay.
and all those things. And you'd see him once in a while. But
Okay.
anyway, that was
Yeah. Okay, let's see. Was there anything you can remember that you feel was an important time in Hayesville? Like celebrations or civic events?
Well, the most only thing I can remember much. You mean as I was growing up?
Sure.
No, not really, because we didn't participate in anything like that. After I got married, of course, you're a little bit more involved in everything then. And they used to have minstrel shows in the old community hall and square dances. And
Mm-hmm.
I remember they wanted the square dances to be just community. They didn't want outsiders coming in.
Oh.
So they pulled down the shades so nobody could be driving along the road and see what was going on and decided to come in and dance.
Ooh.
Yeah,
Okay.
they did, seriously.
Oh, okay.
And they used to have some programs. Some
Well,
school
as a
stuff.
child, did you go down there and like have a Halloween party
No.
or nothing like that? Okay. Christmas
I
party?
didn't know.
Okay.
And I'm sure they probably was some stuff going on. That's what it was for. But
Your
like
family.
I said, we didn't take part in anything like that.
Okay. What message would you send to future generations of Hayesville?
Hmm. Well, participate in activities that's going on that, try to keep us, some civility to things nowadays. I mean, have stuff going on that will draw children, and I know they have a lot of that kind of stuff now, and that's good because it's so hard to keep things going the way they ought to. Kids grow up too fast nowadays,
Right, yeah.
and so things like that they do, I think is real good.
Okay, good. Who is your favorite neighbor and tell us about them?
Well, okay, the only neighbor I can remember actually let me think.
Sure.
On that street, like I said, the old house, the Wire House was across the street, and that was right north of where the Wards lived.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, I didn't have anybody to play with.
Hmm.
There wasn't any, I don't remember any other kids, but I guess probably I knew Ruth Clark real well.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to think of somebody that was going to school down there that we played with. We used to have down there at the old school, kids just played at recess. We never lived close enough to anybody to go play with them after school or anything like that. But they used to have track meets and stuff like that down there at the old school. And everybody took part. But as far as me playing with anybody, there wasn't anybody that I ever actually played with.
Okay.
I grew up by myself, so I learned to pretend.
Were you the only child?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I've got some had two half brothers and a half sister by my mom's first marriage.
Okay.
Her husband got killed when the kids was little, and so she only kept one of them because she couldn't raise 3 kids by herself.
Right.
And then I'm the only one my dad had. He didn't have any
Okay.
other than me.
So, did like you and your mom decide to move to Hayesville, or how did you and your mom and your stepdad then?
No, he wasn't my stepdad. He was my real dad.
Okay.
Yeah, my real dad and mom.
Did you just decide to come and live in Hayesville, or the jobs were down here?
No, I think it was mostly just trying to find some place where he could make a living.
Okay.
Because, like I said, I was born in 29, and I think I was 5 years old when he went broke in the grocery store. And we moved from there to Wichita. And he was from Rose Hill. My dad was
Okay.
from Rose Hill. And so he had a grocery store over there for a while, but it was before I was born, I think.
Okay.
But no, the only reason we didn't pick Hayesville, it was just that was where opportunities came up for us.
Okay.
And so we did what we did for him to make a living during those times that I'm telling where the different places, other than the just cents thing. I don't know what he did to make a living unless he just worked for somebody else.
Okay. Like a farmhand maybe, or?
Yeah, I have no idea.
Okay.
I know at one time we lived, one of those times when we weren't in Hayesville, we lived over by, southwest down there on the Glenn Jones property, and we were tenant farmers there. We had a house to live in, and my dad took care, and because he was an Alice Chalmers dealer, and so Dad delivered tractors, for
Okay.
him and stuff like that. That was one of the times. I can't tell you how long each one of these things were, but all I can tell you is where I went to school and when I went there,
Okay.
But we moved a lot them first
Sure.
few years, yeah.
Since you have been in Hayesville, what do you feel is the biggest change?
The growth.
Okay.
The growth that it's had, and then of course it wasn't a city then. It grew and grew, and then they annexed out into the county, which included us, but
So the 50s, isn't that when Hayesville, the 50s, it really started when they got incorporated? And
yeah, probably when they started these little different things growing up and popping up here and there and every place. But yeah, it didn't do much till it was still only the 2 streets when we got married. So it had to be in the 50s. Danny was born in 51, and I'm trying to think. I think it was probably when they started building schools for themselves and everything.
Is there anything you would like to add?
No, not really, to add about Hayesville itself.
Well, I think we've had a good conversation, and you did, talk a lot at the beginning
Yeah,
about Hayesville. So.
I just, that's all I can remember, because as a child, you don't know what's going on around you. You don't know the hardships. You don't know the But, of course, after I got older and finished school and got married, then I knew, what was going on, like Hurley's and their orchards and Canes and all theirs and Blood orchards and all that stuff. It was a big deal when we had all the peaches.
Right.
I mean, oh my goodness, yes. My kids worked for Cane's orchard
Okay.
several times.
Well,
But,
I have a question for you.
okay,
Do you remember when the Vickers building went in? The Vickers gas station?
I do not.
You don't?
No. I sure don't.
It's such
I
an
don't-
unusual building, so I was wondering if anybody had thoughts about its design at the time that it was put in.
I don't know, because I don't even remember when it went in. Because I had 6 kids, so I was a pretty much stay-at-home mom. And my husband farmed, and he didn't go much. I know he used to take his plowshares over there when Ward was still, sharpening all that stuff, doing all the blacksmith work. He was still in there. But as far as that Vickers station, I just do not remember when it went in.
1956.
Was it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think I remember it going in, and we just looked at it and think, man, that is a weird building.
I know.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just
I'm
weird.
really kind of surprised that it made that historical thing where they got put on the historical list thing.
It's not on there yet. We're working on the national
okay.
registry because it is the first one for the Vickers Petroleum Company to have been built.
Oh, really?
Yes, and potentially the first batwing design in the entire country of
Oh,
any service station.
really?
So that's why it's
Well,
eligible
yeah.
for national. So
Wow. That's
yeah, it's a pretty
cool.
significant building.
But
so.
no, I sure don't remember it.
Okay.
I don't remember when they built, and there were the grocery stores, IGA used to be and all that. I don't remember when those things were built either. Because like I said, I was a stay-at-home mom. And my
Sure.
kids were spread out. I've got them. I got one that'll turn 70 in December.
Ooh.
And my youngest one lives right over there.
Mhm.
She'll be 49 in May.
Okay.
So I had them spread out over a bunch of years. So.
Now.
And then also, my husband's mother was still living. Both his parents was when we got married. We lost his dad when Jenny was about a year old. So that was like in 48 or something. But, so we took care of her until she passed away. So I didn't get out much. And I didn't take part in anything much.
Okay.
Both biggest thing I can remember ever doing in that respect is being a room mother for my kids at school.
That was important. So is this when you two got married, did you buy this land here?
No, it belonged to Benner's.
Okay.
I've got the abstracts to this place.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just looking to, I got some information in there. It goes way back into the 1800s, late 1800s. I think Charlie Benner and the Benner family, his dad,
Right.
used to own this whole quarter section, including the Kane place.
Okay.
Because I got the history right there of where they sold part of it off, and then they bought it back, and then it got split. And we wound up, when Dad and I got married, we had 20 acres stripped back through
Okay.
here.
Okay.
Because Kane's, of course, was there. But and there was another 15 acres that was on the north side here that the nursery bought.
Okay.
But I think his father had to sell that north 15 acres because he lost his eyesight during the war, and Chet was in the service, and he couldn't take care of it, so and he needed the money. There was no help like there is nowadays for people. So I think they sold the north 15 acres at that time.
Okay.
All right. So what is this you're saying about Delos?
His name was not pronounced Delos, it was Delos. And every time I hear it said Delos, it bugs me because I knew Delos. He was a cute little kid. And he went down there to school where I did. He was younger than me. But his name is Delos, not Delos. And it's always, every time I hear it, I try to tell people, but they don't believe me. But I know, it was Delos. Ask Ruth Clark, she would know, but of course she's gone now, but
To try to get him.
yeah, a little late.
Well, I
But,
can ask Betty Turkle maybe.
yeah, Betty would know, yeah.
There we go.
Well, we'll get going on this interview, and I need to have you state your full name, and if you want to tell us how old you are.
Betty Jane Turkle, Stearns Turkle, 95.
Were you raised in Hayesville?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, let's say, were you born in Hayesville, or did the Stearns family, live somewhere else and then come to Hayesville eventually?
Well, yeah, they did. My mother and father did. But no, I was raised here.
Okay,
Completely.
like your mom and dad, Fred and Mabel, did they live in Wichita and then for some reason decide to move to Hayesville?
Well, originally, yeah, it started. They both worked in a bank in Wichita, and
Okay.
I don't remember the name of the bank.
Mm-hmm.
It's not there anymore. And then they married. Nobody knew they were going together, even in the bank. And then they moved to Montana. Well, he had a little homestead. He had a little place, a few acres and a little house
In Montana?
in Montana.
Okay.
And he taught school
Oh,
and worked in a bank there, I think.
okay.
And then mother didn't like it, so they moved back here.
Okay. Do you
And that's
remember
when they came to Hayesville.
do you remember what year that was when you moved back here to Hayesville?
I don't think I have that.
Okay.
Yeah, 1919.
Oh, okay.
Oh, wow.
Nice. 1919. And then since your dad was in banking, how did he decide to start a bank here?
Well, there was a bunch of men that decided that they needed to have a bank here. And they asked Dad to go along with them, and they organized it. And I think Mr. Boffman, which ran the grocery store, was the president to begin with, and then Dad became the president
Oh, okay.
a few years. And then it grew and grew and grew.
Yeah. Yeah. Did a great job. Okay, I had a question. Turkle Street, is that named after you and your husband Franklin?
It's named after him. He was police judge or something. I don't know. At that time, they had
Okay.
all those streets out west are
Mhm.
named after the people that were on the council at that time.
Okay.
Like, I think it starts at Van Arsdale,
Mhm.
Trout,
Hungerford.
Hungerford, German,
Mm-hmm.
Dad.
Yes.
course.
Burns.
Errol Hungerford over here,
Uh-huh.
named after him.
So
Yeah.
Van Arsdale was named after a person?
Correct.
Yes.
That's my street. That's where I live. So
Yes.
okay, really? Do you remember what their first name was?
Do you remember?
No.
No, I don't.
No. Okay.
Wire.
Wire.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Wire. Yeah. Oh yeah. What about Western? Yeah.
No.
Western, no. Mm-hmm. Well, there's Stearns then, after you all, and yeah. Okay.
And later they named the secretary, I guess she was, Anita Landry.
Oh yeah.
Anita.
They
Yeah.
named her.
And
Name.
Wayne and DeLoss. All those are named after people.
We actually just learned it's not DeLoss, it's DeLass. DeLaus?
DeLoss.
DeLoss.
She said it right.
DeLoss.
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 Nelson.
Yeah,
DeLoss
she said it right. Yeah.
Okay.
Mrs. Nelson's.
Yeah, Lavonna was telling us about that. People say DeLos. No,
Yeah.
no. Anyway.
I feel like I got lectured.
What was it like to live in Hayesville when you were a child?
Well, I was the only girl, and all the rest were boys, so it was pretty hard.
In the neighborhood there on Hayes Street?
Hayes.
Okay. Where did you go to school?
A mile south, we had to walk.
Okay. In the little red brick?
Red brick schoolhouse.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, tell me, you told me that story once, but I want it on camera about where Ruth went.
She went to East High to high school.
Mm-hmm.
Well, she would have started down there
Mm-hmm. Okay.
until she was born 5 years later than me, so
Mhm.
I don't know how long that was. It blew away in '99, that's all I know.
Right. So where did you go to high school?
Derby.
You went to Derby. Okay. you were saying that your dad, Fred. All right, you continue the story.
I guess he thought the Derby or Clearwater wasn't good enough for her, so he sent her to East High.
Okay. Yeah, there you go. Oh. Oh. Okay. I was wanting to know how you and Franklin met.
Well, we went to high school together, but I didn't go with him in high school. There was 2 boys that lived here with their mother, or grandmother, I don't know which it was.
Mm-hmm.
And they were good friends with me, and the oldest one asked me to double date with him one night, and that was Franklin. So
Oh,
that's how
okay.
we met.
Cool.
We went canoeing.
Okay. Neat. Was that here in Hayesville, or did you go up to
Wichita.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember canoeing on the river
Yeah.
there. Uh-huh. Yeah.
We used to go up there and bicycle too.
Oh, okay. Yeah, great. Well, growing up as a child, did you go to the community building much? Or
Yes,
Okay.
a lot of things there.
Mm-hmm.
The ladies' aid met there, and of course, I was so little I had to go too. You know.
Okay.
Do you remember the blinds being pulled down?
The what?
The blinds being pulled down? I thought that was kind of funny. To not allow the blinds, the mini blinds or the blinds to get pulled down, the shades in the community building,
Community building?
to not let outsiders in.
Well, I don't know about that. I know that, you know, Audrey and Clarence Byer lived across the street,
Mm-hmm.
and they were like another mother and dad,
Mm.
and to all the kids. And we'd go over there and dance. That's when we'd pull down the blinds. So I don't know.
Oh my.
We weren't. That wasn't allowed, you know.
They were renegades.
Dancing, no dancing, huh?
And so,
Okay. Wow. Was it like that jitterbug stuff or something wild?
I don't know. I don't remember how good it was. And we had, you know, when we'd have put on a show.
Mm-hmm.
I remember one of the gals was Betty Boop.
Oh.
And I don't remember what all these shows were, but
Mm-hmm.
and we had minstrels.
Put on like a talent show for the community.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Yeah, good. Well, in the Methodist church, it was probably a big, a lot of activity at the church.
Yeah, there was 2 churches in Hayesville.
Mhm.
Did you know that? I got a picture.
Oh, good. Mm-hmm.
Let's see. That's the Methodist church, and
Okay.
I think right over here, across the street and south of it, was the Christian church.
Okay. Yeah, there's
Or as small as we were.
the Methodist church there, like on Grand. I see the big steeple.
Mm-hmm.
And then you say the Christian church
It was
was
about a block south.
okay over here somewhere.
Yeah, it was on the other side of the street.
Okay. Yeah. Well, yeah, I see the blacksmith shop and the bank there, and then there's Boffman's. Like, who lived right there, and that big white one right there? It looks like in back of the Boffman's,
Oh, yeah.
right
that was-
over here.
Now let me
Okay,
get
sure.
mine.
Just take your time.
I
Yeah, this
live-
way right here, and those pillars.
Oh, that was part of the Boffmans. That's where he lived back in there.
Oh, okay.
And then his daughter lived with him. Those
Oh.
2 boys
Okay.
later.
Mm-hmm.
And then Leela Vreeland that taught school, she lived
Oh.
back in there too.
Okay.
So,
Now, I recall your house on Hayes Street.
Yeah.
Like, who was your neighbors on each side?
Now here's our house,
That one right there.
right there, and
Okay.
a man by the Tavender lived next door to us, but Mother and Dad started there in that little house.
Oh, okay.
And then we moved over here
Okay.
as we grew, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Then how about on the other side of you? Who lived there?
What's her name? Margaret.
Klopp.
Margaret Klopp.
Oh, Klopp, yeah.
And then the Wards, and then the Wires,
Mm-hmm.
and then the Lives lived over here on the other side of the other street where
Okay.
the other church is.
Okay.
And a lady lived down here across. Her name was Smart. And then we had a Leo Hoy. I don't want to get into that.
Uh-oh. Okay. I don't know now that we got
It's on video now.
it. You just want to stop there?
No, he was just an old guy that he
Oh.
was filthy, dirty. And
Oh.
he found a mouse in the bottom of his coffee pot one time.
Oh my.
And then when I was,
A character, let's
he
just
was a
say.
character.
Oh
Oh,
my.
he wasn't, you know.
An old bachelor
Oh
character?
yeah, he was an old
Wow.
bachelor. He wouldn't have hurt anybody. But
Sure. Just quite the character in town.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, what do you feel was important to the community when you were a young adult starting your family? What was important to you here as
My
you were?
job, I guess,
Okay.
And where did you work?
at the bank.
Okay.
Your dad was your boss?
Yes, he was.
Uh-oh.
And I'd ask him how to do something once in a while, and he'd say, "Figure it out."
Okay.
I feel like we're opening a whole bunch of can of worms here.
Did
No,
your mom work at the bank too?
Yes.
Okay.
Mother and Dad and I were there, the only ones there. But before that, he had nieces and nephews
Oh.
that were older than us.
Oh.
And Wayne worked there.
Mm-hmm.
And
Now, are you the oldest or was Wayne the older one?
Wayne was 2
Okay.
years older than me.
Okay, Wayne, Betty, and Ruth.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. What message would you like to send to future generations in Hayesville? Is there any words of wisdom, like to the future of Hayesville?
Gosh, I don't know.
Well, you can think about it a minute. Well,
What?
get on your cell phone.
Get off your cell phone and look around.
Yes.
How about, do you feel Hayesville shouldn't get too big, or shall we keep growing?
Well, compared to Derby, you know, Derby was the same size as we were.
Yeah.
I'd like to see it. Businesses come in here and see it grow.
Okay. Sure. That seems to be hard to do, doesn't
Yes,
it?
it does. They don't stay long.
A lot of it is because we are bordering Wichita, and so the one-stop shopping is right there on 47th. So
Yeah,
I
and
think
Derby's close.
yeah, and
Derby's got it
a lot of focus should be, will most likely be on the small business and not the big chains. So
Yeah.
that's probably where we're gonna go, where we're heading. So
Okay. Well, we kind of touched about your neighbors, but who was your favorite neighbor? And then tell us about them.
Oh, I think the Hungerfords, they built the same time that Franklin and I did. We were the first house down at the block, clear down.
Okay.
And they were across the street from us.
Mm-hmm.
And she finally went to work in the bank for a while. But,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, they were just nice people. They were just,
Was their daughter your friend, Karen? Or did you?
no, there's quite a
Okay.
bit of difference. I asked her one time if her Karen, and then what was that? Susie,
Okay, yeah.
Was Karen the oldest? She was,
Yeah.
wasn't she?
uh-huh.
Karen, I asked her if Karen could babysit for me at one time, and she said, "Oh no, she's not capable of doing anything like that."
Oh. Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah, so
okay.
that was that.
Well, what about on Hayes Street? Was there a neighbor there?
Well, they were all good neighbors. But of course,
Okay.
the lives, they had so many kids, but they did. A lot of them were gone, but early. But
Okay.
she had two boys that were my age. Well, one of them was, and
Was
They had a
that
place
was that
where-
Howard?
no,
Okay.
Orville.
Orwell, okay.
He was my age.
Okay.
How about the Jackson boys?
Yeah, Bob and Bill. They lived with. They were Mr. Baldwin's grandsons, I guess you'd say.
Okay. I think Lucille Live told me that her and Ruth got up on the water tower and took this picture. What do you
They
think?
did? I have no idea.
That's what Lucille told me once.
It could be.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised.
they weren't supposed to be up there,
No, it was right back here.
but you know,
It was right back between the bank and the.
yeah, that water
Grocery.
tower.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if this was the elevator here then.
Yes,
Must have been the elevator they got up there and took that
it
picture
may
then.
be. Yeah, it probably
Yeah.
was.
Okay. Yeah.
And at one time, when I was in grade school, we had over here by the tracks, we had a bunch of Mexicans
Oh.
lived there.
Oh, really?
Nice. They worked on the railroad.
Okay.
I went to school with them.
Now, when you moved down to Hayesville, was the railroad already here and the depot and
The depot.
railroad
Yes,
depot? And
Mm-hmm. Was it Rock Island at the time, or
Yeah.
was it?
Did you take it to town, Wichita, very often? The railroad?
Once in a while, but not very often.
Okay. Okay.
We always liked to watch them pick up the mail. You know,
Oh.
they'd jerk it. Once in a while, they'd miss it.
They would just kind of be zooming along a little bit and
Yeah.
grab it and,
Yeah.
oh, okay. Yeah. I didn't know if people got off in Hayesville a lot or, coming from
No,
mainly the mail, huh?
mainly the mail.
Yeah. Okay. Well, since you've been in Hayesville, what do you feel is the biggest change? And you've been here 95 years. Wow. I think you might be the oldest resident so far. You better come to the banquet. You'll get another award this year. The women's banquet. Coming in May.
Well, if I make it that long.
Oh, you will. The biggest change, what do you think?
Well, all the building houses that's gone on.
Mm-hmm, okay.
And the
You know, when-
schools, lots of schools.
Yeah, lots of schools, and they still keep building.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Um,
All right, is there,
we moved. I was trying to figure out when we moved the bank,
oh, uh-huh,
and that was in 1953.
okay.
And we built onto it in 68, and I think again sometime, I don't know.
Okay. The little bank there on Main, it was
Main.
just way too little for
Yeah,
future,
I have a picture of it.
okay.
Uh,
Oh, yeah, okay.
And you know, when the Historical Society redid it,
Mm-hmm, oh, yeah.
you know, they've got,
Did we not do too good a job?
no, they've got,
Recreating it?
they've got small windows across here.
Oh,
and there
yeah.
was really only two.
Oh,
What they were seeing was the blind, you know,
Oh, oops.
They were,
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't on the committee then. Not that to say it wouldn't happen, but yeah, I don't know where they decided to do all those windows.
I think they got it from the Venetian blinds that we
Okay.
had in there, you know. where
Oh.
you could- They had so many across.
Mm-hmm. Well, you had just this one window, and was this just boarded up, or was there?
No,
two
there
windows?
was two windows.
Okay.
This was a window and this was a window. I don't know
Okay.
when this was taken at all.
Yeah. Well, that one says,
48,
yeah, 98.
98.
Well,
I don't think that's right.
There's no way, because it wasn't there in
I
98.
wasn't there.
So it'd have to be, well, no, wait, it was there.
Well, it was
99.
there. It was
The tornado
99.
was 99.
yeah.
Yeah, this was 98.
Hmm.
Well, I do have a question I wanted to add. Do you remember when the Vickers Petroleum Station was put in? The funny little building.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Well, there's a liquor store on the corner
Mm-hmm.
and the liquor store.
Well, it was there when I was a kid.
It was? Oh, I don't know. I don't remember. I think probably the liquor store and that went in about the same time.
Do you remember what you thought of the design of the building? No,
No.
because it's kind of funny looking.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's okay.
Why don't you, have you got some pictures, some
Oh,
more
they're
pictures?
Just, they're just mother and dad.
Okay. I've got to tell you, we're going to go see Betty Cattrall, and she said Judy Pegg gave her, your mother, Mabel's wedding dress.
Really?
She's got the wedding dress, and she said she's going to give it to us, and then we'll put it on, you know, I'll get a form
Mm-hmm.
and put it on display there in the wire house.
Oh,
But I can show it to you too sometime. And
well,
did she have do you recall, was it a white?
I have no idea.
Okay. All
I
right.
don't know as I've ever seen.
Okay. You don't have a picture of your mom and dad's wedding photo? No? Okay.
Do you remember Lucy Gubitz down the street?
Sure.
Can you tell me anything about her?
Well, she was a wonderful gal. She was a good musician. She worked in our church.
The reason I ask is because that was me over the weekend yesterday, picking up the piano. Because her family's donating the piano to,
Oh,
to the
really?
city for
Oh.
preservation. Yeah.
Oh, well, that's nice.
So I was just trying to get a little bit of info.
Who lives down? Does somebody live there now?
No, her husband is
Yes, I know where he
Alzheimer's
is.
and he's in the
Yes.
Masonic home, so they're going to put the house up for sale.
Oh, okay.
So to help pay for the cost of Masonic home. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, yeah, they were. We lived next door to them for years.
yeah, that's cool. So we have one last question.
No? Let me see.
Did we do them all?
Yeah, we did them all.
Okay. I'm just saying because she's starting to look like she's getting a little tired.
No. You know, my cousin built this house. Cousin
Oh.
Gene, and
Mhm.
he built that later. And then Franklin built all the houses between here and there.
Okay. Wow. Franklin was in construction?
Oh, yeah, he built a lot of the houses in his.
Okay. Well, that's neat.
I bet
And
you
of
he
course-
knew my father-in-law. I bet you.
Of course, this was the parsonage for the first parsonage the church bought.
Yes.
Here you are back in the parsonage.
Yeah.
Yeah. Remember, whatever you want to say. What you just told us. Huh?
Oh, Bruce, do you remember the time that you brought a bunch of kids to my house to find, for me to tell them about the bank and what transpired there? Good enough.
Sure.
From the
Betty, tell us about the bank robbery.
The the last one.
Sure.
One day, my brother was sitting in the swing on the front porch of our house, which was right back at the bank, and he saw this car go by in front of our house, and he thought that they looked suspicious because they took their hats off, and were looking over toward the bank. So I think they went around the block and back out and headed west. And so Wayne ran over to the bank and he says, "Dad, I think you're going to be robbed." And Mr. Myers was in the bank, and he had worked with law enforcement. And so he says, "I'll check this out." So he went around the section and came in from the west, and they were parked under the trees there on West Grand. And anyway, Mr. Myers, he checked them out, and they had taken off some of their clothes. They'd taken off their shoes and put other shoes on, and taken off their rings and everything, and put them in the shoes. And he hauled them in from there to Wichita, I think.
Wow.
The bank was robbed originally.
It was
Once
originally
before.
robbed earlier when my cousin Helen Chitwood worked there.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, she was a Stearns then. And when they came in, they told her to lay on the floor, and I'm not sure she did. I think the story goes that she refused.
Okay. Cool.
Well, I'm not
You
afraid of
recording?
Bruce.
Okay, tell us what you think about the established date, Betty.
Well, there is a map in the local history file of the original plot of the town that Bill Hayes produced, and I believe that the date on it is 1872, but it's in the 1870s, about the same time that Wichita cooperated, and he was the first postmaster. He got the post office for Hayesville, and so we've been established a long, long time. I mean, it's kind of an insult for the people who were here all those years, and then to say, established in 1950. Yeah, so, but,
I'm going to ask you a few questions, and
right.
then we'll talk about just stuff in general, whatever we think of. What is your name, and if you don't mind, how old are you?
My name is Betty Cattrall, and I'm 89 and 360 days old.
Yeah. Were you raised in Hayesville?
No, I was raised in Wichita,
Okay.
and we traveled a lot, so.
Okay, when did you come to Hayesville?
We moved here in 54. We were the last house on this street built, and nothing west was built.
So the last house on Wire.
Yeah, this house
Oh.
was the last house on Wire.
Okay.
And
Then they just
my
kept it on.
husband was working with the contractor who was building the houses, so he put all the hardwood floor in all these houses. So,
Wow. Nice. Okay, let's see. What do you feel was important to the community? Back in 54 or...
well, in 54, it of course was a very small. It had an established city government. It had a mayor and city councilman, but was mostly families that had been here a long time, and there was a big resistance to growth. They just really weren't eager to have all these new people and change their way of doing it. People like Fred Stearns was on there, and I can't think of the fellow's name over on Ben Arsdale. Van Arsdale was one of them that was developing all of this. And
Do you remember his first name? Van Arsdale's first name? Was it Van?
No, Van was his last. That was the whole last name.
Okay.
Van Arsdale was the whole last.
Do you remember
name.
his first name?
Not right now, but it should be in the records of the city.
Okay.
Shouldn't that book, Days Gone By?
No, well, it may be, but I don't know if they came up there. You know, they just came up to 1923 or 25 in
Oh,
the
I
book.
see. Yeah, that's right.
And so, and by the way, Patty, well, I'll tell you later. But, well, while it's on my mind, I better tell you now. The proof for In Days Gone By is in the big chest of drawers in the basement of the library. So if there comes a time where you decide to rerun it, and probably at that point in time it should be made the historic district, and they get some money out of the books.
Oh.
Right now it was a library thing, but I don't know. We're probably down to maybe less than 50 copies.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay.
okay,
I'll make a note of that.
yeah.
Yeah, there are proof copies down there, and it's a great book, isn't it? I'm so glad
Oh
they
yeah.
did it.
Oh, I am too. I
Man.
am too.
Yeah. Can you remember what you feel was an important time in Hayesville?
Well, I think when we moved out, it was time. Things were just starting. We started with the Peach Capital Festival Jubilee in May, you know, and everybody got into it. The Stearns and everybody. They had we didn't have a Chamber of Commerce, but Lions Club was formed very soon. VFW was formed, and the auxiliary. Just all new things like that. We were looking for things to do for our town, and when I moved out here, I didn't know that I was moving into two of my high school companions' area. Ruth Clark and I attended East High School together, and Ruth Curlis
Oh,
was
Nice.
there too. So,
okay.
but yeah, we were just because all of a sudden we were growing, and we couldn't build schools fast enough. Every time we built a school in this community, we had it was overcrowded by the time the school was completed, and that's still pretty much true today.
I know it's something.
So, but it was just kind of a fun time because then there was very few of the local families that and so everybody was new and like that. So it was fun to start
Sure.
these and do these things, you know. And
Starting a whole new generation of Hayesville.
yeah.
Sure.
Every school had to have new PTA officers, and you got to know each other
Yeah.
and like that. And there was a real sense of community and wanting to do things because it was all fresh and new. And we didn't have any traditions to live up to.
Okay.
Good way to start. Yeah.
Started from scratch, yeah. Okay, tell me about you being a librarian. Were you a librarian when you moved down here, or was...
No, when I moved down here, I worked at Boeing in the library, and worked there for a couple of years. But it got to be a problem when I went to work on Monday. My youngest son would be ill. I'd have to come home from work every Monday. The rest of the week we got fine, but every Monday, I had to come home because he didn't want me to go to work and him go back to school. And so then when they built Nelson, my husband was driving the bus for the school district. And of course, I don't think he had any idea what being a librarian was, because he went in and told Mr. Freeman, the superintendent, that I could put the library together. And so I got hired.
What year was that?
About 63, 64, maybe a little early, maybe 60. Yeah, because Carrie went 4 years, so we didn't move out here till Carrie was in the 4th grade. So
So you're saying when Nelson
54 is when we moved, and I worked at Boeing at the next year, so it was probably 55, about 55.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
But Nelson, when it was built, they built a room for the library.
Yes.
Okay.
There was at that time there was a big push to put libraries in school. There never had been libraries in schools before,
Mm-hmm. Oh.
and so there was a government national science and education push to put a library in every elementary in every grade, but high schools nearly always had libraries, but below high school there just didn't. So when Nelson was built, it was built with a library, and they did hire me, and I started it and got it sort of organized, and then they decided they got a new superintendent of schools and decided they had to have an accredited librarian, one with a degree. So they sent me up to Rex to organize that one, and and they'd already hired a accredited librarian there, but sent me up to Rex to set that one up, and hired a lady for Nelson, and she lasted a year, and then the principal asked him to please send me back down there. So then I was at Nelson 14 years.
Okay.
And then we got another superintendent who looked at all of the school records and found out I didn't have a degree. So he had one of the principals come down and fire me because I didn't have. So then the next summer they hired me to go back to the middle school because neither Mr. Miller or Mrs. Groves could come to school because they were both sick. So I started the middle school then and stayed several years up there. And then Glenn Crum, well, a long time back we had formed a library board. Wade Stearns, Dr. Palmer, B.J. Kingdom, Gail Freeberg, a library board, and we got the city council to levy $2,000 a year to build funds towards creating a public library in Hayesville, and then about 70, it was early 77. Glenn Crum was on the city council, and he came and asked if I would give him a list of people that I thought would be good to serve on the library board, and I did, and they formed the library board, and finally got the vote of the community to establish a library.
Okay.
And I'm talking too much.
No.
No, you're not.
Perfect. Perfect.
And then Glenn became mayor, and it was pretty easy when you have all your friends on the library board and you go apply for the
Oh yeah.
job. But it was in late 76, 77 they hired me, and we took the old Hemp Hill building, which hadn't been used for 10 years, and cleaned it out, and the school let us have it for $10 a year.
Nice.
And I was the only employee, and we started the library. And so we asked for people to give donations of their own personal books, and we got wonderful. It was amazing the variety of books we came out of the private homes around here. You know that you'd think you were going to get all true romances, but it wasn't. It was really, really unusual.
Probably a lot of history and.
There was a lot of history, a lot of science, and of course we had some science fiction buffs that had really good collections, and it was really good. So we opened the library November the 1st, 1977, and I was still the only employee. But then they had summer youth programs where they would hire kids to do something. So for several summers, I had high school kids come in and help like that.
So when was the last day at Hemp Hill? Then
We
closed.
moved in the summer of '92
Okay.
because we'd outgrown everything. We'd used every nook and cranny over there, and we'd outgrown over there, and so the city building decided we could have the building. They were no, they built that building new. I beg your pardon. The city building was building a new city building. They got a bond issue to build a new city building, and they wanted to. We hadn't used that $14,000 they'd accumulated. They wanted to use it to furnish the new city building,
Okay.
and so then we agreed that they would build that building, and we would move the library over there because they had a chance to sell that building we were in,
Yeah.
and
Worked out.
yeah. So we moved there in '92, and
Okay.
then we moved into the new building in 2009, 29.
Okay. So, how long were you a librarian then before you retired?
Well, I had been in the school system approximately probably 20 years. But no, not quite that many. Yeah, about 20 years, about 20, maybe 17 or 18 years in the school district. And then I was there for 39 years. So I've been a librarian out here for 60 some years, but retired.
And a great one. Yeah. I mean, really, you just, through the decades, just really built. you
Well,
know,
a library should sort of be the
yeah.
heart of the community, especially when you're starting with a community that doesn't have deep traditions like that.
Okay.
Your Methodist Church is the one lasting chain link to the very beginning, way back, and that like that. So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there weren't very many churches, so like you talking about all those people that were on the library, a lot of them went to the Methodist Church.
yeah.
You know, and yeah.
But it was amazing by the time we started building the schools, we were also known as a church city because we had 16 different denominations in this little
Yeah.
town, and it's amazing.
It is, yeah. Wow.
So,
Okay. What message would you like to give future generations in Hayesville of how you maybe see the city moving forward?
well, the first thing, you need to get to know your neighbors.
Oh.
You need to have a sense of ownership in the community. And to have a sense of ownership, you need to participate and do things in the community. Do as much of your shopping here, go to church here, send your kids to school here, and then you become a real citizen. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, great. All right. When you moved down here, or even up until now, do you have a favorite neighbor that you can tell us about?
well,
Of course, how long have you been in this house then?
I've been in this house since it was built in I've been here 60 some years.
Okay.
So.
Are there still some neighbors?
54.
That,
Yeah, the Stevens is across the street. They're probably not original.
Uh-huh.
In fact, I can't think of anybody down the street that's the original, except the Sampsons across the Grand up there
Yeah.
that live there, and of course Jean Armstrong just recently lived here till she went out to Clearwater to
Yeah.
live. So.
Doing good. Doing good.
But my neighbors across the street, Bob and Carolyn Stevens, are really good neighbors, and they look and see. They know when I'm home and when I'm not home, and all of that. And if there's too many cars over here, somebody will come over to see what's going on, you know. And so, but and Bonnie Omar across the street also is a really, really good neighbor.
Well, going back a ways, is there some community people that you think really helped with the city and, you know?
Oh yeah, there were, you know, you think of Judy Tyson
Oh, yeah, sure.
and who had deep roots here because her family farmed in the homestead. I don't know if it was a homestead or not, but they were early residents here, and of course the Stearnses and former mayors. Marvin Huddleston worked really hard to bring things to Hayesville. John and Dee Trout. When you sit and think about them, they just begin to pour out. John loves this town, and he really worked and served it in many different capacities and like that.
Right.
So,
Yeah. Let's see. What do you think has been the biggest change here in Hayesville?
well, of course, the biggest change has been in our school system as it has grown and gotten bigger and bigger and a little more not as just comfortable. I mean, there's lots of more problems and issues and things they have to face and everything. But for a long time, it was the largest school district, and Nelson was the largest school
Right.
in the state.
Yeah.
And so but we've been fortunate to have exceptionally good leaders in our school systems and people who cared. But the point is now that everybody wants everything instantaneously. They don't want to work and obtain it. They want it to happen now.
Okay.
And so we used to have all kinds of shopping out here. We had clothing stores and variety stores and drug stores and all kinds of things like that. But people now, because they're only here in the evening and early morning because they go to Wichita or somewhere to work,
Right.
they do their shopping, and that's not,
Yeah.
that makes it hard to build on.
Yeah. You think Wayne and Dorothy Holt, they've done a lot with the school?
Yeah, they're stalwarts. And don't ask them to tell you or brag about what they've done.
Okay, yeah.
Now Wayne might talk to you, but Dorothy just
Yeah,
is a very private person.
right. Yeah. Well, is there anything else you'd like to add?
Oh, if I get started, I could probably go on forever. But I have a lot of
Oh, yeah.
a lot of ideas. And
Oh, yeah.
But
Well-
you tend to, when you get older, because we do this as people age, we kind of, in our society, we kind of find a place to house them, keep them all off to themselves, and they don't get a. I could tell in my library organization, after you reach a certain age, you don't be asked to be on the committees anymore,
Yeah.
because they're already in their mindset. You have past the age of usefulness.
Oh. Well, tell me about the historic committee. Was it formed after the tornado?
Oh,
or
no.
You had one before
Oh
that?
no, we had been working. Let's see, there was
Judy?
Judy Tyson
Mm-hmm.
and Ruth Stearns and Ward. I can't think. Howard.
Yeah.
Howard Ward
Mm-hmm.
and myself and
Marion?
no, Mary
Okay.
never did serve on the historic district committee.
Oh, she didn't? Okay.
Oh, she's got her too busy.
Yeah. Yeah.
We had the guy from the blacksmith, Steve. I can't think of his last name now,
Oh,
but
okay.
he's on there.
Uh-huh.
And so that was about it. There was a girl from the city that always sat in on all of our meetings.
So
but
what?
we had to fight like the Dickens
Mhm.
to keep that land because
Oh.
some of the councilmen wanted to just go in there and clear it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was all right as long as people were living in those houses and paying, but they didn't want to spend any money or time. They couldn't see the vision of doing it. And
So what year do you think the historic committee was formed?
Well, it was probably in the early 90s.
Okay.
92, yeah.
Okay.
It may have been late in 89 or 88, but I can remember having the meetings more often after we moved into the building in 92 because it was close to the city building. And they were doing things. They built a library and had built a new city building, and they were wondering what to do with the old city building and the old time, but we wanted to save as much as we could. And of course, at that time, we had the little church, and we had Audrey Bayer's house, and we had two churches, and even had the community building. And so it was, and those things were built by hand by people coming in. They didn't hire somebody to come build any of the people who lived here. Actually built those buildings and then used them for years and years.
Right.
And so we wanted to remember the people who started Hayesville and all of that. See, I think we need to build a general store. You know where the house that we rent to somebody? We should build a general store on the front of it, face it out on Grand, and leave the house there to use whatever we want to. But that should be maybe a functioning general store.
Wow.
Just
okay.
you know,
We are trying to really get a chapel going.
yeah,
Have a church in the area.
yeah. And it probably should be up closer to the street, to 71st Street, where the churches were, and just as a symbol because of that. The Methodist Church was beautiful. It had lath hardwood floor on the ceiling,
Wow. Okay.
and it was really pretty. And so,
Yeah.
I've seen pictures.
huh?
I've seen pictures of it.
Yeah.
I love
The
the cupola.
lectern was wonderfully, beautifully carved. And we had it for a long time, but it disappeared.
Oh, really?
Well, we just stored stuff around one place and the other, and someone would see, and knows that nobody's paying any attention,
Yeah.
and like that, and see,
I didn't know if it got blown away in the tornado.
yeah.
Too,
And you know the story about the bricks in the church at the bank.
Well, go ahead and say it. Tell us that story.
Well, when the tornado came through, the only thing left was the
Vault.
vault, but the bricks were all scattered around, but we were so busy working with saving people's home and paying attention, and so all of the bricks disappeared, and so finally our committee complained, and they started tracing, and somebody remembered the name on the truck of they found it, and they found them in a guy was putting them in his foundation of his house down in Arkansas, and we went to court, and they had to send as many as we could get back. So the front of the building and the layer in front, that's all original handmade bricks. So
Okay. At least we got some back.
yeah.
Yeah. Whew.
Do you remember when the Vickers building was built?
When what?
When the Vickers building was built?
It had to be early 60s.
1956.
Yeah, there was a lot of different things up that street. And there was Dr. Corey had his dental offices there, and our Dairy Queen was on that side of the street, and there was a liquor store right on the corner, because then when you came to that intersection, you had to go up. The tracks weren't overhead like they were, but you had to go up to that. So that right along on that side of the railroad, pretty well clear up to almost where the senior center is now. Where the senior center was Hemp Hills Dairy Farm.
Oh.
And they had they had cattle, and they had a milk route for out here.
Wow.
And so
Nice.
Do you remember what the people said, or about concerning the Vickers building and the way it looked, with its weird design?
well, everybody was really thought it was really right uptown, and everything, and of course we had 2 or 3 different people operating it because it was the Vickers Oil Company, and I'm surprised they can't give you some information. Vickers Oil Company, they still have a big plebeian around here. Yeah.
Sure.
Even our school buildings at that time were just
Sure.
rectangles, and when we put them up, there
Yeah.
was no thought to make them pleasing to the eye or anything like that.
Okay.
So it was kind of a
Like a futuristic type.
yeah, it really was, and of course you had people that thought it was okay, and people thought we were getting too highfalutin for it.
Highfalutin.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
You're good.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah.
Do you want to go see if
Yeah, I'll go check on that. Make sure we got it.
we have a gift for you? We do, and I forgot to bring it, so somebody's bringing it for us. So I went out and bought you a gift. So I thought you deserved a gift. Again, my name is Rose Corby. I am the Planning and Zoning Administrator for the City of Hayesville. And what I am doing for the City of Hayesville is I am working with the Historic District Committee. And what we are doing is right now, the Vickers building, the Vickers service station that you used to work at, I believe. Did you work at that station? You did?
Yeah,
Did
I was manager.
You were the manager. Oh, okay. Did you you received a reward or an award for Employee of the Year? Is that correct?
That little old
The plaque.
pie.
What did you do with the Vickers building? I mean, how did you get that award?
Well, people came in and paid. I didn't go out to the pumps.
Okay, so you were a cashier.
Uh-huh.
Okay, and you were very nice to the customers. That's probably why you got the award, right? You were very nice.
Well, I was fair, and
Well, they thought you were great because they gave you an award. So you must have done something right. Yeah. So what was it like at that time when you were working there? What was it like to work at the Vickers, Petroleum Company?
well, I needed to work extra to the money I was receiving,
Okay.
and they had an ad in the paper that they wanted a cashier.
Okay. When did you first start working there? You don't remember? Well, the award was from 1979.
Yeah, I remember that date being on that plaque.
Right. So were you there maybe a year before or a little longer than that, or
I don't know.
you don't remember? Okay. No, that's fine. That's fine. So when did you leave Vickers?
Well, why did I leave?
Well, yeah. Why and when?
I don't know. I'm just going by that date
Okay.
that I started or left. I don't know.
You don't remember? That's okay. That's all right. Do you remember anything about the city of Hayesville from your life throughout Hayesville?
No, I just needed to work.
You needed to work. Did you live in Hayesville?
Yeah,
You did. Do you remember where?
yeah.
Where was that?
On Trout.
On Trout. Okay.
214 South Trout.
Wow. Okay. The house is still there. It's still there. Still standing. It looks great. Did you have another job that you worked at in addition to that one, or just were you at home, or?
No, I just drove from my house
Mm-hmm.
to the station, which was just a short distance.
Yeah. Did at the time that you were there, did they used to have the gentleman that would come out, you'd honk the horn or run over the tube and somebody would come out and fill your gas? Do you remember if when you were there, were the employees running out to fill the customers' gas, or did the customer fill it themselves?
And all the people would, we would turn the pumps on, and they would just come in and pay.
That's cool. Did you have a family? Did you raise children?
No, I had one daughter, but she passed away in the year 2000.
Oh, I'm so sorry for your loss. I'm terribly sorry for that. Was she a longtime resident as well, or did she move, or
No, she's already married.
she was already married?
And lived in Wichita, and she worked at Beach Aircraft.
Oh, okay. So she went to there. Okay, all right. And you just stayed at Vickers Building, and then you don't remember when you left.
No, that was wasn't it 79?
1979.
Actually, yeah.
We have the plaque right here. Do you remember this?
Uh-huh.
So would you mind if I put this right here? I want everybody to see this plaque with you, because this is you.
Turn and smile too.
Smile, big smile, because we're gonna take a picture, and we would like to
Okay.
have this.
Got it.
If that's okay with you, what we'd like to do is take this plaque and put your picture with it, and actually make it part of the history of the Vickers Building. Is that all right with you?
Mm-hmm.
So, what did you enjoy working for the Vickers Company,
Oh, sure.
and what was it like?
Well, it was good to meet the people.
Of Hayesville, or just the people of Vickers, everybody in combined, or?
Everyone that come up to the window and paid.
So you actually had a window.
Uh-huh.
So was there a pass-through that they had to put the money under the window, or did they come inside the building?
Well, the window was inside, and,
Okay.
and they would just come in and pay.
Did the station have like cigarettes for sale, gum for sale, other items that customers could purchase besides gas?
Yes, I can't think.
That's okay. It's okay. It's okay if you don't remember.
What it was, but they would get it off of the shelf,
And you would take care of them. So you must have been an outstanding employee, because for the Vickers Petroleum Company to give you an award, that's an amazing accomplishment. And we're just so proud to have you, as a citizen of the city of Hayesville, and to have that history. When did you get married?
oh, I was already married, and my husband had passed away.
Oh, when you were working there? Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Okay. Do you have anything else you wanted to add?
No, it's a good place to work.
Do you remember when it closed down?
No.
No, you don't remember?
We had a competition that down at the corner, another station opened up.
Oh, competition, huh? Yeah, okay. But I bet you provided the best service, didn't you?
Well,
You must have. You have a plaque. Do you remember what the building looked like at the time? Do you remember what color it was?
It's white.
It was all white at that time? There was no red?
Well, they might have been
Some red on it?
outside just trim.
Okay, yeah, it looks the same. Have you seen it at all in the last few years?
No, I haven't.
Well, I want to let you know that we have restored the building and it looks the same as it did when it was first built. And what we have discovered through research is that this station, the station you received your award at, was the first Vickers Petroleum station built in the country. And I recently submitted our paperwork to the state of Kansas to list the Vickers service station as a historic building. And that's why this video is so important, because you are part of that history for that building. And we would like to continue your legacy with that building. And as long as you're okay with it, we will do that. Are you okay with that? Excellent. Do you have anything else you want to add about the history or about yourself?
I remember the people that had an ad in the paper that needed someone.
And you just jumped on it, didn't you?
Geneva Peterson was my boss.
Geneva
for-
Peterson? Okay.
Geneva and Joe, her husband, worked at another station.
Oh, okay. Were they the owners or just the managers?
Oh, they just managers. I don't know. Have you talked to Mr. Herman?
No, I have not. Not yet.
Well, I'm assuming that he owned that building.
Okay.
You'd have to ask him.
Okay. I will do that. I will definitely do that. I'll see if I can find him. Is he still here? Is he here, or do you know if he's here?
The last I knew, he was married to a little girl that worked at one of the stations.
Oh, okay.
And they lived on a street named Christine.
Okay. All right. We can definitely work with that and find him. So that's awesome. Anything else you want to add?
No, it was a good way for me to earn a living.
I bet it was. Well, Miss Price, I want to thank you. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart and from the city of Hayesville and the staff. We appreciate you actually taking the time to visit with us and give us a little bit of the history of your history with the Hayesville Vickers building. It's so important to our history, and we're looking forward to actually including you into the history of that building. So I want to thank you so much.
Well, you're welcome. It's a nice visit with you.
Oh, well, you know what? I like you so much. If you're okay, I'd love to come back and visit with you. Just no cameras, just you and me. Are you okay with that?
Sure.
Okay, I will do that. I will definitely come back and visit with you. It was a pleasure to meet you, my dear. Thank you.
Okay, whenever you're ready.
This is the Heritage of Hayesville video series. Today we're talking with Wayne Holt. Wayne has been a teacher in Hayesville, a principal, and an assistant superintendent. He is currently working on the history of the Hayesville schools. Good morning, Wayne.
Good morning.
Record, first school that opened in Hayesville.
Yes, the record we found is that the first school opened in 1876, south of Grand Avenue approximately where the Public Works facilities are located now.
Well, when was the first school built in the city of Hayesville?
First one actually built here was in 1947. I should review, I guess. The building that I mentioned first then later was relocated to 79th and Seneca and remained there. And then in 1947, what was known as the Hemphill West Wing was built on Grand Avenue and opened in the fall of 1947.
And then the next school, Nelson School, when was it
Nelson
opened?
then opened in February of 1956. Interestingly, was called the New School when it opened. Had not been named.
And when did Rec School open?
Then in the fall of 1958. This was a very rapidly growing time in Hayesville history.
Well, how did these schools get their names?
Okay. It's my understanding that the Board of Education considered the name of the family who was the original landowner, or the landowner that the people who owned the land when the school district bought it. And so there was the Nelson family, long history of the Nelson family, the Rex family on the west side of town, little history of the Rex family.
Well, you mentioned a Hemphill School. Now, where's that located?
Okay, Hemphill is the building, the only part remaining is what we call the East Wing. That was at 230 West Grand. The West Wing a few years ago was demolished and replaced by a facility of Norland Plastics. But that was actually the first school in the city of Hayesville.
Well, did Hayesville have a high school then?
No. The high school students, the students of high school age who chose to go to high school had to find a high school elsewhere. Many of them went to Derby, some to Clearwater, and some into Wichita.
When did Campus High School open?
Not until the fall of 1960.
Why did they name it Campus?
Well, I think if you look at the facilities, you probably come up with the idea of why they named it Campus, because it was originally built with 9 separate buildings and reminded everyone of a college campus.
But then, did other communities besides Hayesville use Campus High School?
Yes. Hayesville was indebted deeply in building its own elementary and junior high schools, and so could not financially afford to build a high school, is the way I understand it. And so an organization came about whereby some other districts, including Oatville, South Riverside, and Enterprise, joined Hayesville and created enough tax base to build a high school.
Wasn't a second Campus High School planned? Why was that never completed as a high school?
Yes. Their anticipation was that the first one built at 55th and Meridian would be overcrowded almost immediately from the time it opened. And so they went immediately and started a second campus at 71st and Meridian, which is now known as Freeman School. That was never completed. There's long stories about why that was not completed.
Well, wasn't Campus originally planned as a college?
That's one of the rumors in the community that's felt to be true by a lot of people, and as far as I can tell, has no basis of truth. The shape of the facilities would lead one to believe that, but it's my understanding that there was no original intent for it to be anything other than the high school.
But going back to this second high school, it eventually became Freeman?
Yes. It was completed, partially completed, almost immediately after the other one opened in 1960. So by about 1962, the South Campus, is what they were calling it, was built as basically it sits now, except the buildings were not complete. Well, it was owned by the Campus High School district. And so the Hayesville district had no authority to use it, even though the Hayesville district was overcrowded with younger children and needed facilities. But it was not needed by the high school, so it sat empty from the time it was built in the early 60s until a process called unification in 1965, when all the districts were combined.
Why has Freeman been closed at various times then?
Well, population has increased in Hayesville over the years. The most rapid growth in population was during the 1950s, and we're back now in a period of significant growth. But for many years between, especially in the 70s, population declined, school population. Not so much the total population of the community of adults, but fewer children were being born at that time. And so the school population declined, and lack of resources, the district made the decision that they could close it. And so it went through a period of opening and closing.
Okay, moving on to the junior high school. When did it come to its present location on Grand?
Okay, the junior high school first organized there at Hemp Hill, as I mentioned before. That was possible when Nelson opened, and then later Rex, when the elementary students were pulled out of that facility, so it became a junior high. Then in February of 1962, the building at 900 West Grand was opened for the junior high.
Okay, why, Campus and Oakville were separate school districts for many, many years. Why was that?
Okay. At that time, now by that time I mean previous to the unification law going into effect in 1965, school districts in Kansas could be organized radically differently. A common pattern was an elementary district or a district that went up through 8th grade called a grade school district. And then Campus was organized as only a high school district. Hayesville at that time was only a grade school district. And so each one of those districts had its own Board of Education. And so that existed until the state made major changes in the mid-60s and unification came into effect in 1965.
Which leads me to my next question. How was the unification, how was this district formed, 261?
Okay, I understand that there were county committees. Sedgwick County would have had one overall committee that made recommendations of how the new districts were to be formed. One of the requirements in the law was that every school district must be a total district. Kindergarten, if that existed, through 12th grade. So there was no splitting of the different grade levels. And so the committee made that recommendation. Well, Hayesville was the dominant school in this area. By that time, some of the other schools that had gone to Campus had been annexed into the Wichita district. That only left Oakville. And so Hayesville, Campus, and Oakville were joined, and that new district, Unified District 261, began operation in July 1965.
We're seeing a surge in school populations now. When was Ruth Clark Elementary built, and why is it so close to Campus?
Okay. Ruth Clark was built and opened in the fall of 2000, again to meet the need of an ever-increasing enrollment, especially in the elementary. The reason it was built near Campus is because the district owned the land. Now keep in mind, we have the unified district now, so all of the property is under one heading. And so the Campus property, and there are significant numbers of acres located at that site. And since the school already owned the land, and the Hayesville elementary schools tend to be located in the city of Hayesville, we have quite a lot of population to the north of the city. So it was decided to build Ruth Clark on that land already owned by the district.
Were Ruth Clark and Freeman named for landowners like Rex and Nelson?
No, that's interesting. We went quite a few years after Nelson, Rex, and the Hemp Hill. We didn't mention much, but the remaining building was named Hemp Hill again after landowners. But several years later, when Freeman School opened as an elementary, the recommendation was made to name it also after landowners. And the Board of Education at that time didn't think much for that idea, so they appointed a committee. And the committee recommended Freeman after W.C. Freeman, a former superintendent in Hayesville, and that's the name that was chosen for Freeman Elementary. And then a different committee was appointed in 2000 to recommend to the Board of Education a name for the new school. And a lot of names were kicked around. Nationally known names, philanthropists and and well-known people within the city of Hayesville. Eventually, the name was settled as Ruth Clark, and that was done in order to honor two things, I think. The Stearns name, because Fred Stearns, a longtime banker in the community, was considered, and Stearns was a name that was considered. Eventually, it was decided to honor the Stearns name by naming his daughter, Ruth Clark, and also in honor of all of the educators, since Ruth had been a longtime educator in the district.
When did the Hayesville community grow so rapidly, and is it still growing?
Okay, as I've sort of mentioned before, the 50s was the period of extremely rapid growth. But then most people think that we've grown steadily since then. We actually haven't, as I mentioned. We actually declined, especially through the 70s. In the 80s, it leveled off. And then starting about the early 90s, the growth started, but it's been much more gradual. It's picked up a little, as people in the community will know, an awful lot of new housing in this area. Another thing to consider, though, is that the people who have been in Hayesville for a number of years are growing older. And so older families don't tend to have children in school.
Right.
And also, families in our nation and in our area tend to be smaller than they were. So it takes several new houses to get a significant increase in population, but we are experiencing that now.
So is approximately the total enrollment in all the Hayesville schools?
Well, a little over 4,000, probably a little over 4,400 enrollment in the schools now. That needs a little explanation, because you can see figures that are radically different on school enrollment. And it doesn't mean that people are giving incorrect figures, they're just giving figures for different things. Two ways of reporting enrollment. The figure I gave you of a little over 4,400 students would be what is known as full-time equivalency. That would be counting students such as kindergartners and preschoolers who go half-day. It would take two of those to count as a full-time student. So if the figure is given as head count, it would be considerably more than that, but this is full-time equivalent.
So the enrollment increases, you said they've been gradual, and then we've had spurts, and now we're in
A good steady growth.
a good steady growth right now. Well, that's good. Has kindergarten always been a part of the public schools in our community?
No, that's not true, and it's sort of a shame. There were private kindergartens. As a matter of fact, Ruth Clark operated a private kindergarten, as did others in the area, but not nearly all students were able to attend those private kindergartens. Public kindergarten didn't come to the Hayesville community until 1966. Now, that's a little misleading, because Oatville had joined the Hayesville schools by then, and Oatville had had kindergarten since 1956,
Right.
when their new building was built. So there we had a situation for 1 year in the Unified District where one of the elementary schools provided kindergarten and the other elementary schools did not.
Now we have an alternative high school. Why is it located in Grand Lane Shopping Center?
Okay. Well, that's a good question. The alternative high school has been in several locations. It actually started in one of the facilities at the Freeman site. Then it was moved to the east wing of Hemp Hill. And then it outgrew that facility and leased space in the privately owned Grand Lane Shopping Center. Then in 2000, I believe it was, no, it's a little after 2000, probably more like 203, the district decided to purchase Grand Lane Shopping Center rather than lease it. It was kind of a wash. The payments for the shopping center was approximately the same as the lease being paid for the alternative high school, and it also provided some other space.
Well, what about the preschool program? When did that begin, and are all children eligible for this early childhood program?
Okay. There's been several different starts of the preschool program. The one I use is probably around 1980, when a federal grant made it possible to start some preschool handicap. Preschool typically was to identify students who would have some handicapping condition that would likely cause them to have some problems in the regular school once they started the school. And so they would be caught prior to starting to the public school, and be placed in special programs. So it started in about 1980, and then it's grown through various sources. And then you ask if all of the students in the district are eligible. No, it is still for those identified with some special needs. Don't want to overemphasize that, because that doesn't mean they're all special ed students or they're all handicapped students, but it might be as simple as slight speech defect, some work that needs to be done so they can maximize their effort once they start to the public school.
Well, I understand that we've got a program called Parents as Teachers.
Yes.
Can you explain that a little?
Well, Parents as Teachers is another one of those programs. It's preschool, actually starts much younger, from birth, theoretically. But Parents as Teachers is different in that the children are not removed from the home and placed in school all day. They basically are left in the home, identified by the Parents as Teachers workers through testing and interviewing, and then the school personnel go to the home and advise, listen, give advice to the parents on child rearing techniques, and just in general support them. There are some times during every month when the students, the children, and their parents come to the school or some other location and work with the teachers in the Parents as Teachers program. It's a really great program where it has, in my opinion, the perfect combination of school and parent working together.
And is it successful here?
We feel it's very successful. It's grown tremendously, and again, has had a lot of support from grants, both federal and private grants.
I see the name Tri-City School on the old Hemphill School. What's Tri-City School? Who goes there?
Okay, well, from Tri, we probably would get a hint that we have 3 people or 3 something involved, and that would be the 3 districts of Derby, Mulvane, and Hayesville. A few years ago, those districts felt a need for creating a program for special needs students that were just couldn't find a place in any of the public schools for them. And so they do have handicapping conditions of various types. And so they created the Tri-City program. At first, part of it was housed in Derby and part here in Hayesville, but when the alternative school moved into Grand Lane Shopping Center, it provided a facility in the east wing of the Hemphill building. And so now we have the entire, and they potentially have students in all grade levels through high school. It's a very small, in the Tri-City, but it's a small population.
I've heard that both the junior high school and Rex Elementary were moved out to Freeman for short times. Is that true? What happened?
Well, Rex was one of the first ones, I believe. There was a time when the gas service into the school developed some problems. Nelson and Rex schools both operate with individual heaters and now air conditioners. At that time it was just the heaters, and they are gas powered. And there's been a little problem with fumes from time to time. Most of those have been spent fumes, but at that time it was determined by the fire department and the gas company that there were raw gas fumes in the classrooms at Rex to a dangerous level. And so the fire department actually shut the school down. It was in December of one year, and they moved most of the students to Freeman, which at that time happened to be empty, other than storage. It's always had storage in it. But they moved most of the Rex students there. A few of them went to the Hemphill School. And that was for a month, maybe 6 weeks. Later, and I believe it was the summer of 1980, there were many major renovations going on in the school district. The junior high, as it was called then, was having major work done, carpeting, also asbestos abatement. There had been concern about asbestos in the building, and so there was an awful lot of treatment going on in that building that summer. Well, the work wasn't completed when it came time for school to start in late August. And so the middle school was again transferred out to the open buildings at Freeman, and it's served the community very well in those times of need.
I noticed that there are an awful lot of school buses around town. Are all the students bused to school?
No, it might seem like it if you'd look at the number of buses parked out at, west of the Freeman site. But the tradition has been that students living outside the city limits of Hayesville would be bused, and students living inside the city limits would not be bused. It's my observation in my retirement that probably is changing, and I'm not arguing with it, but it probably is changing because I see buses on the city streets, but it's not nearly all of the city students are bused. The high school students have always been bused to campus if they so choose, but generally it's only freshmen who choose, and not all freshmen, who choose to ride the buses. But like I say, the buses are primarily for the outlying area. Maybe I should mention at this point, the Hayesville School District has, down through the years, been made up roughly half and half. Half the students come from the city of Hayesville, and half the students come from outside the city, and that's a little surprising to some people.
Many years ago, the Hayesville School District was involved in a lawsuit with the Wichita District. Would you like to explain that to us and how it was settled?
Yes, that caused some consternation, especially with Wichita. Wichita, as I alluded to earlier, at a time when that was possible, annexed for school purposes. I should explain real briefly. The Unification Law of 1965 changed that. A city like Wichita cannot annex Hayesville students for school purposes unless Hayesville would agree, and Hayesville never agrees. But at that time, once the city annexed an area, it was total. The students changed to the other school. And so Wichita took about half of the campus students. That would have been the north end of the campus district at that time, which was Enterprise and South Riverside. But with taking half the students, Hayesville was left with a dilemma. Still had the bill to pay for the building, and only half the population to pay the bill with. And so Hayesville sued Wichita, saying, you owe us some money for taking away our ability to pay. Wichita's argument was, we didn't take any of the school, we didn't take any of the furniture, we didn't take any books, we didn't take anything, so therefore we don't owe you any money. And that suit went all the way to the state Supreme Court, and Hayesville prevailed. So Wichita, in essence, paid over a period of years for almost half of Campus High School.
I understand that more new schools are planned for this district. If I assume it's true, what grade levels will be placed in these new schools?
Yes, there was a bond issue rather recently that was successful, a major bond issue, almost $50 million, to build and renovate schools. Believe the first two buildings that will be built, and probably the only two new buildings, will be a new elementary school and a new middle school. Both of those are going to be located on land purchased by the school in the Meridian 71st area, northwest. One way to think of it is, I believe the elementary school is planned roughly north of the St. Cecilia School and Church, and the middle school would be west of St. Cecilia. Probably the elementary school will exit onto Meridian, and the middle school exit onto Grand, although I'm sure there will be driveways where you can go
wherever they're
all the way.
needed.
Right.
I understand that you're writing a book about the history of the Hayesville schools. How's that coming along?
Well, it's coming along fairly well. Yes, I've been interested in the schools for a number of years, having spent 40 years in the district as an employee, and then later 6 years as a school board member. And I have a lot of material. Also have booklets, yearbooks, staff directories, those kind of things. And then I had fallen heir to a lot of material. People like Leela Vreeland had written material about the Hayesville School. Some people had written it and didn't even sign it. That had come into my possession before I retired, and I felt an obligation to put that down in some kind of meaningful form for the future. So that's what I started with, that plus my own knowledge, plus the information that I have access to through the school people that I know. And so I'm trying to chronicle it, and it's coming along well. I'm practically through with the original writing. Now the editing is beginning. And one of my problems on writing is that I like to tell stories. And I keep being reminded that this book is an attempt at history, not so much my stories. And so the editors are giving me a little trouble on that.
Maybe you could tell them to make 2 books, one
Well-
for stories and one for history.
That's what I've been told, and so there is another book in the making, and we shall see if that comes about. And I should mention that that book may be a little complimentary, what I'm writing. It will probably be 75 or 80 pages and will be put together in some form, obviously not hardback and not sold commercially, but will be available to the community.
Good. Oh, excellent. Thank you. We've been talking today with Wayne Holt, who's been working on a history of the Hayesville schools. I'm Marion Renner.
Golly.
Kill it, Sean. Kill it, Sean.
And whenever you're ready.
Okay. This is the Heritage of Hayesville video series. I'm Marion Renner, and today I'm talking with Betty Cattrall, our city librarian. Good morning, Betty.
Good morning.
We've had a library in Hayesville for quite a few years now. When was the Hayesville Community Library established?
It was established in 1977. The referendum was voted in 1976, and then they had already appointed a library board, and then when the vote passed, they began to look at space and personnel.
And where was this first library located?
It was in the old Hemphill building, a building that was built in 1948 to house our 7th and 8th graders. The elementary classes went to various schools around the community, and then they came to the Hemphill School for the 7th and 8th grades. And then they had abandoned it when they built campus and that. So it had been emptied about 6 to 9 years when we decided to approach the school district about leasing it. And they leased it to us for $10 a year. And so
How long was the library in that building?
we were in that building from 77 to 92, and then they built the building we're in now.
And when did you move to this current location then?
Actually, early 1993, yes.
So this is a fairly recent building then
Yes,
to be in.
and it's been, of course, the tornado hit it in 1999 and damaged it severely, and we were out of the building for all of that summer, worked out of a school to keep our summer reading program going, and then it took about 8 months for us to get back in the building.
With the growth of the city of Hayesville and more patrons using the library, do you feel like it's adequate, or is it becoming kind of overwhelmed with the population?
Well, it's becoming pretty crowded and overwhelmed. It's sufficient for today and maybe even tomorrow into next year, but very shortly we're going to lose the meeting space because we'll have to utilize it for materials and things like that. Last year we have a door counter. We had 71,000 people through the library during that calendar year. So we're busy.
Very busy. I see there's cars over there all the time. All kinds of meetings take place there, as well as people who are just in for the books and the computers.
Right, and as well as classes, we offer through the Wichita Area Technical College, we offer English as second language classes, and we offer adult basic education. And of course our quilting classes on Mondays and Wednesdays.
So it's more than just a place to check out books.
We think so, yes.
Getting back to the history of it, you've been the head librarian since the library was created. How many staff did you start with, and what do you have now?
I was the only staff member when we started. And then we started utilizing the summer youth program that the government subsidized. And now we have 11 employees.
11? Do you have volunteers that help also?
Oh, yes, we use lots of volunteers. We use volunteers in many, many different capacities. And our Friends of the Library is very strong, and they come in and fill in and do things when we're not. It's a wonderful organization. As a matter of fact, the Friends organized even before the library was voted in.
So the Friends organization has been around as long as the library has?
Yes,
And it's a good thing to belong to, of
yes,
course.
It is.
think about how the library has changed over the years. When you started out, how does its role in the community change, and what services have you provided that you didn't have in the beginning?
Well, of course, in the beginning, we primarily focused on books and print material, and then it slowly evolved to where there are more audio materials kept in the library. And then, of course, technology came along, and we developed and the state of Kansas developed a union catalog in which all libraries put their collections into, so that we can borrow back and forth, so that it expands the size of your library. You're not limited to just what you have on site, but you can order anything for people from any point in Kansas. And now it's even expanded to national. The state of Kansas has been very supportive to its public libraries over the years. So they've added some databases, paid databases that we couldn't afford, that people can now access through our library with their cards.
And you say that, like, if I wanted a book and you didn't have it, and you could get it from another library, and they would mail it to the library. Now, is there a charge for that? Do I have to pay anything?
No, there's no charge for that. The library absolves. In fact, our system, every library in Kansas belongs to a system. There's 7 systems. Our system reimburses us for partially for the postage we use to send the books back. And so the sending library is reimbursed for sending the book to us. So it's not all at our cost, but no, we do not charge the patrons for that. However, if they're overdue, they're charged just like everything else.
An overdue book. But otherwise, to request material and get it, there's no extra charge to me as the consumer.
No.
Because it's part of the library system.
It's just another service we can do. We have 15 public use computers, and we have a way you have to sign in, and we assign you a computer, and if there's people waiting, then you are limited to the time you can be on the computer. If there's no one waiting, then you could be on the computer as long as you desired.
So are you connected to the internet then?
Yes, we have internet access. We have email address. People can come and have an email address at the library if they don't own a computer at home, and come in and check their email and like that. So.
What other services are offered by the library right now?
Well, we do wonderful book talks and literature explorations. We have a series that we do through the Kansas Humanities, and they supply the books, and they also have a list of scholars who come and lead the discussions for the book discussions. We also have many other programs that we give on. This morning, the Department of Aging is at the library and explaining the new Medicare D plan to seniors who have not got theirs yet. Today, the EPA is coming in, bringing us all the records from Vulcan and all the EPA regulations, and those have to be maintained at the library. We offer tax forms. We have 2 notary publics. We have a copy machine that we photocopy for people. We have a fax machine. We have a scanner. We have a lot of services that we forget to tell people about sometimes.
So what do you see as is the future of the library in Hayesville?
Oh, it just grows every year. The circulation is just, it even surprises me, because we were told when technology came along that libraries were passé. And all across the country, people are building new libraries, they're expanding their libraries, circulation of print materials is way up, and books will never go out of fashion. We are looking for some new technology. We're looking to make our building wireless accessible very shortly. We're looking to make our card catalog accessible from home, so that you can see what we have or reserve your book from home. And those are the ways we're going. But we're going to very soon need some space and some ways to grow, because it can only expand.
Can you talk a little bit about the summer reading program? Oh,
we have a wonderful summer reading program. we're affiliated with the 13 other public libraries in Sedgwick County. And we were lucky enough that, I can't think of his first name, but the Leland Trust people that used to own the Beacon newspaper, when they passed on, they left a trust to Sedgwick County for the children of Sedgwick County, the libraries. And it's a 90-year trust, and they give us money every year to put on a summer reading program and bring in professional programs. And we have, I think, 15 professionals coming in to do programs this summer. We have 8 or 10 workshops and that takes care of the kids from birth through the 6th grade. And then from the 6th grade on up to the 9th grade, we have what we call young adult summer reading. And the title this year is Creature Features. And so it's going to be about monsters and all of that kind of thing. And we're going to have a movie a week. We're going to have a author come and do a writing workshop for them. Several different things planned. And then we have an adult summer reading program. It was requested by our people who attend the book talk, and we're going to use Kansas authors, and we're going to have one a month, and have either the author or someone that knows very much about the book come and help us lead the discussion. So we have some plans.
Excellent. And how many people would you say attend one of these programs that you have during the summer?
The children's
and
program,
adults.
well, we've had as high as 200.
So it's a popular program.
Because we don't limit it to children, and they're so fun. So we encourage the senior center to send people, everybody to come and watch these performances.
Now, is there a charge for these performances?
No. That's taken care of by the trust.
Okay.
Yeah.
So everyone is invited, and
That's
the
right.
library just keeps growing and expanding.
Yes, and just adding people and
So the future of the library in Hayesville.
looks very bright, looks very good. So,
Thank you, Betty.
yeah.
This is the Heritage of Hayesville. Betty Cattrall, the librarian, telling us about the history of the Hayesville Library.
That's great.
Yes.
Just a moment here. And whenever you're ready.
This is the Heritage of Hayesville video series. Today, I'm Marion Renner, and today we're talking with Vern Lippold. Vern, how long have you lived in Hayesville?
Most of my 75 years. We moved here when we was 4, and then I moved away for a while and then came back in 49, I think it was.
So you've seen Hayesville grow from very small to where it is today.
I remember when the train still stopped and went down to the store. I mean, the blacksmith shop still worked.
And you were in on the beginning of the Hayesville Fall Festival.
Yes.
How many years has that been going on?
I'll be 22 now.
22 years.
This will be our 22nd year. Mm-hmm.
Wow. Have you been a part of the planning committee since the beginning?
Yes, in fact, I instigated it. I was sitting in the park one day on the 4th. It's my first year on the city council, which has been a long time ago. Mm-hmm. And it was hot, and I said, let's do this in the fall. And I envisioned, maybe a little one-day thing with some barrels out there, some fires in it, and we got it started the first year, and it just went on. When we first started, I talked to Marvin Huddleston about it, and he thought it was a good idea, and so I talked to some other people, run into Clem Dickerson, of course. He's frying hamburgers at the rodeo, and I'd ask him about it, and he said, let's do it. Well, that kind of gave us a push. So we called a meeting, and I didn't have the foggiest idea how we was going to pay for it or anything. I mean, it was just an idea. And Wayne Kane was there at the meeting, and John Journey, George Macbeth, Carol. I'm probably missing some, but they were there. And of course, Shirley, my wife. And we talked about it, and somebody said, well, how are we going to finance it or pay for it? Wayne Kane said, let's sell advertising. I didn't have a clue how you did it. And Wayne and John Journey showed me how. They took me out and showed me how to solicit advertising, and that way we didn't actually call it a donation. We was giving them something for their money. And we put together a book. We used John's old printing equipment over there and put it together, worked nights and everything else. And that was interesting. Took it down, had it printed. Then we missed one ad. So we had one page printed. We went downstairs here. Joyce Metzinger and Carol Macbeth and Shirley, and I don't know, we had a big crew. And we opened up each one of those books and put this one page in. And that was a beginning of being very careful how you do this. But we honored it though, and the man was a good customer and stayed with us until he went out of business. So that was some of the things that got it started. And George Macbeth, I said, George, you're the cook around here, so you're in charge of getting the hamburgers cooked. So the Lions Club come in and we cut some barrels in half, and we started that way. Shirley had a $200 budget for entertainment, and that's about what we had too. But we had entertainment on the stage, and we made it one day. My son and another man built a booth for the kids to throw darts at balloons, and everybody won. They saw to it everybody won something. Clem and I went up and bought stuff at the Carnival Supply and what have you. And of course the bank was a big help, helped us get started and carried us till we could get going. Then of course the city just couldn't have done it without them. But that's how the first one got going, and it just kept growing from there.
And just start, what did you advertise for people to put booths up?
Yes, that and put it in this book. We put this paper out that had their ads in it and what have you, and carried them out and scattered them around, had them there at the festival. And we continue to do that in our program book now.
Did it start out as just one day?
One day.
One day, and now it's grown how big?
Well, we will start actually Friday afternoon and close down Sunday. And that was partly my fault that we moved on up. I couldn't see going to all this trouble for to have people there for half a day or so, and it's worked.
And well, what have been the most popular events over the years that we've had at the Fall Festival?
Well, one of the most popular things we're doing now is our tractor pulls with the lawn and garden tractors. As soon as they fire those up, people just go running over there. And of course, our car show is always tremendous. Mm-hmm. Those guys put on a terrific show. You know, when you look at 200 or 250 cars over in that lot, that means a lot, and they do that. And it's a big draw. We have something there that Dad can look at the cars and Mama can go to the craft show, and somebody else can go watch the tractors. We don't have one thing.
Now the car show hasn't always been there, has it? How long has it been with the festival?
It's about the third year they really got involved, and they've stayed with us, and they've done a terrific job.
It seems like they've been growing every year too, expanding.
Depends on the weather. They're pretty weather prone. They don't want to bring those shiny things out. It's going to get rained on, but can't blame them.
Right.
But Mother Nature's been good to us. We've had 2 bad years.
Out of 22, mm-hmm. 2 bad years, weather-wise.
Weather-wise, right. Mm-hmm. It's just been fabulous that way.
Did you have any event, anything that didn't work and you had to get rid of it?
The one thing we got involved in was when they had the Indian powwow. It got rained out so bad that they had to move it to town, and it just never worked out.
And it never did come back?
The rest of the stuff, as far as entertainment, it's always worked.
How long does it take to plan for the Fall Festival?
We start about the week after.
The week after it's over, you start planning for the next one?
All right. Looking for help and getting, some of the people get tired, and some of us are getting old.
Yes.
And it does happen. But so we're looking for young people to help us too, and we've got some now. Georgie and some of those, they've just jumped in and been fabulous. So we're looking for some more young people. We can show them the ropes, because time's going to come, and Clem and I can't do it, and some of these other people.
That's true.
We've lost some now. You look back over the time of Wayne Kane and Les Foster, just so many of them that just can't help anymore. They're gone. Mm-hmm. And some of them are just getting, where they show up and they do what they can, and of course we love them and respect them for that. But we have a lot of people that show up the day before and just jump in and go to work. They won't go to meetings, but they come over and help.
Come over and help.
And
about how many volunteers does it take?
Well, we usually have about 8 or 10 on our committee, and it takes that many more at least just to come in and help get stuff set up, taken down, clean up. So there's a lot of work to it, and it takes a lot of money, a lot more than people realize.
Are you making a profit now?
Yes, we have been, and we put that away for those rainy days, so if we don't. But
right.
We usually make more than we put out anyhow.
Well, that's good.
Yeah. It's times it's been close.
How many years has the carnival been there?
See, we had them started out, I think, the second year.
Second year.
Mm-hmm. And then we had Autoways, and then we had a a date problem, and we had Costello come in, and he's been with us now for quite a while. And
And everybody seems to be happy with what they do there.
yeah, so far they do, and we might be making a change, but we haven't decided. We're not going to run out and say, hey.
And the food, you said first year you just had somebody fixing hamburgers,
We
the Lions Club.
we had our own food concessions for several years, probably, I want to guess at you 5 or 6, and it just got so much that we had to do something different. So we started looking for vendors. We have a list for them that want to get in, but we limit them because we only have so much electricity, so much space. We don't need 12 funnel cakes and nothing else, you know.
Right.
So Clem takes care of that, and he doesn't. That's his department, and does a good job of it. But we do try to limit it and keep it down to something reasonable. I want this thing to where they can bring their kids. Don't cost them to come in, but they can bring the kids over and have a good time.
Right, right.
And
When did you start selling the buttons?
Oh, first year.
The first year.
And we messed up on the numbers, and we had to take them all in and sort them out. Shirley and Jack Harris spent about 3 hours in the motorhome sorting out buttons.
Oh my.
But we took care of it, though.
But that seems to be a good draw too, because you can put your name in to win a prize
Right.
if you buy buttons.
Right. They get something for the button, a chance at getting something else, but they do get the button. And that helps finance, and it doesn't make a lot of money, but usually it'll carry itself. Same way, the hats and those T-shirts. We're lucky to break even on them, but you get a lot of PR out of it.
You get a lot of advertising when
Right.
people wear them around.
And, you know, somebody's come over and worked real hard, and you toss him a hat, and he thinks he's really, and it's good. That's what it's for.
Right, right. What would you say the average attendance is now?
Oh, I've asked the chief and a few other people, and we've kind of estimated we run around 15,000.
15,000, which is a lot of people for our little city.
You're tired when it starts. You're kind of cranky, and maybe you're not speaking to one of your friends, but then here comes all those people down through there after the parade, and it's worth it.
And it's worth it then, yes.
Well, you know, the parade gets over, and we just look up, and here they come. And then it stays that way till Sunday afternoon. It seemed like about 4 o'clock Sunday, we don't say anything to anybody. It just kind of
It
winds down.
shuts itself down, and that's it, huh?
We give away our prizes and work till 10 o'clock picking stuff up and go home.
Well, it's been a wonderful experience. I know that you've been working with it for a long time. Since it started, you said you sat down and thought about it. How many more years do you think you're going to be working with the Fall Festival?
I told you I'm getting old. Oh, I'll probably be around as long as I can.
Yeah.
But
You have some young people coming up who can take over.
we have some that are really working at it now. We need some more. We need more people all the time. And one thing I would clear up here now too, while I've got the chance, so many people say, well, the city of Hayesville profits from this and all that. Well, indirectly, yeah, we try to make the town better, try to bring people into town. But this is a private, non-profit organization, and we do try to put the money back into things such as the park. You know, we added on to the band shelter. We've been involved in that. All those new lights out in the park, we were involved in that. And other things that go on around town, we try to help with it. That's what it's for.
The Hayesville Fall Festival, though, is its own organization.
Right.
Has no
Non-profit.
The city doesn't run
No.
it.
And we couldn't do it without them.
Well, yes,
Absolutely
cooperation.
couldn't. Right. But a lot of people, I hear that when I'm out around the coffee shops a lot, and I hear that, and I try to straighten it out every now and then.
Well,
But,
it's good to do that now too. Yes.
Yes, and let people
What-
know.
What do you see coming in the future for the Fall Festival?
Well, I would like to put together another big lumberjack show
Oh,
with the pole climbing and everything. That's something I would like to do. We had the small one there, and it went over real well. But it is fairly expensive, so you got to figure out how you're going to pay for it.
right.
I would like to see that, and I would like to also see some more rooms built on back of the band shelter for dressing rooms, make that a little more convenient. But as far as attraction, that's the main one I would like to see. I'm sure
Another
there's other
lumberjack.
things. I'm trying to get some radio-controlled vehicles like the race cars and boats and stuff in, so we'll have something on the pond this year. I don't know if it's going to work, but I'm trying.
But, well, it'll be interesting to see, and I think
Well,
everybody
we-
looks for the old things that they remember and the new
Mhm.
things that are coming up that they haven't seen before.
Our tractor pull is a terrific draw, and we got rained out one year completely on that. But the guys show up and they don't complain. They just do what they do, and we give them a piece of ground and I set them up a table and a PA system, and sometimes they use their own, and then I'm gone. They take care of it.
They take care of the
Yeah,
whole thing.
they're great bunch.
That's good.
We have, actually our cooperation with everybody is good. Oh, sometimes you get somebody's cranky, but you're going to have that. As Clem says, you try to please everybody, you get in trouble.
Well, I know the Hayesville Fall Festival brings people back to town year after year, those
Yes.
that have moved away, and they come back for the Fall Festival. It's a good thing for the city of Hayesville.
We have people from other states here for it. We had, Jack Harris's aunt and uncle used to come down regularly till their health caught up with them.
Mm-hmm.
They'd come down from Plainville, and that was a ritual. They came to the Fall Festival, and that. And we have people, I've had them from Perry, Oklahoma, from all over come up to me and talk to me about it. A guy from the tractor pulls over one day, and he said, I come up from Perry every year to see this thing. So it does bring people, and probably brought his family, and hopefully she was over buying crafts,
Well,
and that's,
We hope so, because the craft area has grown and
Mm-hmm.
the commercial area has grown, and it takes a long time now to walk around the grounds and see all that's there.
space is beginning to be a problem now.
Mm-hmm.
And Clem and I have talked, and Jack, a bunch of us about, Jack Harris, and a bunch of us about how can we rearrange it, but with a walkway and everything, we're pretty well tied down to what we're doing. We could pick up some more space by maybe bunching some rows up, but I don't want that.
No,
We can
that-
help it. So far, we've had very few accidents, and it's been real good that way. Or a bee sting or something like that, but nothing major has happened there like that to mar it, and that's good.
Okay, well, we thank you for coming in and visiting with us. It's good to know about the Hayesville Fall Festival, and long may it live.
Well, as long as I live, I'll help with it. So.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Well, that was great. Thank you guys.
April in here,
Okay.
and whenever you're ready.
This is the Heritage of Hayesville video series. I'm Marion Renner, and today I'm talking with Steve Crum, who is a Hayesville native.
Yes, I am.
So, Steve, how long have you lived in Hayesville?
I have lived in Hayesville almost 40 years.
Almost 40 years, and in that length of time, I imagine you've seen some changes in the city. What was it like when you were growing up?
Well, when I was growing up, I grew up on Van Arsdale, which is all the way down by Quick Shop, and there was only 2 elementary schools in town. Oakville was already there, out of town, but we just had Rex and Nelson. So you saw a lot more kids walking and riding bikes because, I mean, that's just how you got to school. So I went to Nelson, so I walked or rode my bike to school every day, and like most of the other kids did, and there were just a lot more kids out on the street during the day before and after school. It seemed like there was less busing, and there was a lot of activities for the kids to do between school and home too.
And where were those activities?
Well, there was always, on my way home, I could stop at Peter Pan and get an ice cream cone, or I could wait and get a little closer to home and go to Mr. Swiss and get an ice cream cone or something like that. But there were just more, the kids just tended to do more outside.
More outside socialization, that
Correct.
sort of thing.
No video games yet.
No video games. Well then, okay, then what are the changes you've seen?
A lot of the change I've seen is just the growth in general. The city is much bigger now than it was 40, 30 years ago. There's more activities. The library, there was not a library here until I was in, I want to say middle school maybe, or maybe 5th or 6th grade. So we've gotten a new library. There's a new city building. My father was involved in council and mayor, so he was actually mayor when it was still in the old city building, so I knew it when it was over there. We've got several stable I don't know, business, like churches and things like that have been in town a long time, have a lot of the same people that go to those churches. Those are like families in themselves. Nelson and Rex are still here. So those things are all the same. We've got a few more places to eat, but it's basically the same stuff. Now it was Dairy Queen and Little Duffer, now it's Dairy Queen, and we've got the Sonic and with Johnny B's, and those things were, the Little Duffer used to be the greatest place in the world, and now that's where Dairy Queen is, and Dairy Queen does a great job. It's just growing. There's a lot more traffic, which I think one thing that's good is maybe there's not quite as many kids walking before and after school, as the traffic is a lot worse now than it was when I was growing up.
What's your current occupation?
I am a 5th grade teacher at Nelson Elementary, which
And
is also where I went to elementary school at.
How long have you been a teacher then?
This is my 7th year.
What have you seen? What changes have you seen in the schools?
Well, I've been a school teacher for 7 years. I've coached at the high school. I'm in my 15th year of coaching swimming at the high school. And I also coach volleyball at the middle school, so I see them at all ages. But honestly, what the kids are exposed to is much different now than it was then. I would say even in the past 7 years, I would say the 5th graders I had 6 years ago, because this is my 6th year in 5th grade, are probably behave more and have been exposed more to kids that were maybe in the 6th grade 6 years ago. I mean, it's just changed in that amount of time. They're just exposed to a lot more things, and unfortunately, I think a lot of times they're forced to grow up a lot faster than we were.
Let's move on to a different subject. Tell me about your family.
My family. My mom and dad moved here. First off, they bought a house near Nelson on Alice Street. And Dad got a job, I believe my dad got a job at the junior high, but shortly after that happened, he got drafted. So they let him out of the mortgage on the house and everything, and my mom and him moved to New Mexico for 3 years, where they had my older brother. Then they moved back to Hayesville, and they moved on to Van Arsdale, where they are now. I believe they moved back in 1957. Dad was involved in the school district as an employee for 40 years before he retired a few years ago, where he's now, at present time, he's president of the school board. My mom's very active in the church. As of right now, they are members of the Hayesville United Methodist Church. She's a member of the historic committee right now. My dad has been on council. He has been mayor. My older brother graduated from campus, as did my older sister. My brother lives in Pretty Prairie now and still makes it back for family events all the time with his family. My sister lives just south of town. She works in the school district as a Title I para. They're just real grounded. We have a very close-knit family. I'm
And you're married.
And I'm married. My wife, Paige, who was Paige Burgess, who grew up just east of town. I have we have 4 children. Tracy, who we just got done with a round of birthdays. We're done with birthdays February, March, and April, and we're all done. So Tracy just turned 17. My daughter Olivia is 9. I have a son, Dawson, who is 7, and a son, Dane, who is 5. Tracy goes to campus. Olivia and Dawson go to St. Cecilia, and Dane is a proud member of Mrs. Ruth Clark's activities at the library right now. He'll be in kindergarten next year.
Excellent. Why did you choose to raise your family in Hayesville?
Well, with Paige growing up in town, basically, and me too, we like the city. We like the town, we like the people. It's just some place that we liked growing up in, and it was somewhere that we felt comfortable to have our kids grow up in, and that's why we built a house here.
Was there someone in Hayesville who had a significant impact on your life, someone who stands out in your memories?
Well, my dad would be number one. I don't know if by fortune or on purpose or, unconscious I've followed a lot in his footsteps. He worked for the school district as a teacher and a coach. I'm a teacher and a coach. He was on council, I'm on council. He was somebody I truly looked up to, and I really wouldn't feel comfortable. I don't want to move away from my parents. Paige's dad lives with us, which he has since day one, and our families are nearby, and so this is just a good place. As far as other people, Ruth Clark had a great impact, not only on me, but on the whole community. She had my brother and sister, and I believe you were with her, before there was kindergarten in the school, just meeting over at her house. So I would have to say she had an impact with me, along with a lot of my teachers.
What are some of your fondest memories of Hayesville?
Well, some of them could get me in trouble. I ran around with a big group of kids that we all graduated together. I remember when I was in 3rd grade was the first year they had the Hayesville Basketball League, and I can remember a lot of the tournaments and the leagues we were on, and things like that. We had pretty successful basketball careers as we went on up through high school. We used to just get together and play basketball. I can remember where at the end of Van Arsdale there's a big ditch where there's a house now. It used to rain and it could fill up and it'd turn into like a homemade mudslide into a big pond. I can remember going down there a few times. And just, it was more carefree for the kids. Like I said, there was no video games really. So, you'd spend a summer night just out running around playing hide and go seek or, bombing each other with water balloons or whatever. And it was just really carefree and a good time.
What do you see for the future of Hayesville?
I see growth and prosperity. I think that we've got businesses coming into town, we've got land going up for sale, and it doesn't stay up for sale that long. It's a matter of making sure everybody starts shopping at the new places, that we keep them here, and as long as other businesses see business prospering here, then they're going to come to town. We've still got a lot of areas to grow to the west and to the south, and I feel like we're in the process right now of changing our image. Unfortunately, somehow Hayesville has gotten a bad image in the news for whatever purpose, and the county it seems like sometimes will let some things toward the south end of the county kind of go, so it gets closer to Hayesville and we get that reputation. But I think we're in process of changing that with the railroad project being done and with the new businesses coming into town.
So all in all, you're satisfied to continue to live here and be a Hayesvillian?
Yes, I am. I'm proud to be a Hayesvillian.
Okay, and that is our interview with Steve Crum. He's currently a council member. He's lived in Hayesville all his life. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
This is the Heritage of Hayesville video series. I'm Marion Renner, and today I'm talking with Steve Crum, who is a Hayesville native.
Yes, I am.
So, Steve, how long have you lived in Hayesville?
I have lived in Hayesville almost 40 years.
Almost 40 years, and in that length of time, I imagine you've seen some changes in the city. What was it like when you were growing up?
Well, when I was growing up, I grew up on Van Arsdale, which is all the way down by Quick Shop, and there was only 2 elementary schools in town. Oakville was already there, out of town, but we just had Rex and Nelson. So you saw a lot more kids walking and riding bikes because, I mean, that's just how you got to school. So I went to Nelson, so I walked or rode my bike to school every day, and like most of the other kids did, and there were just a lot more kids out on the street during the day before and after school. It seemed like there was less busing. And there was a lot of activities for the kids to do between school and home, too.
And where were those activities?
Well, there was always, on my way home, I could stop at Peter Pan and get an ice cream cone, or I could wait and get a little closer to home and go to Mr. Swiss and get an ice cream cone or something like that. But there were just more, the kids just tended to do more outside.
More outside socialization,
Correct.
That sort of thing.
No video games yet.
No video games. Well, then, okay, then what are the changes you've seen?
A lot of the changes I've seen is just the growth in general. The city is much bigger now than it was 40, 30 years ago. There's more activities. The library, there was not a library here until I was in, I want to say middle school maybe, or maybe 5th or 6th grade.
Mm-hmm.
So we've gotten a new library. There's a new city building. My father was involved in council and mayor, so he was actually mayor when it was still in the old city building, so I knew it when it was over there. We've got several stable, I don't know, business, like churches and things like that that have been in town a long time, have a lot of the same people that go to those churches. Those are like families in themselves. Nelson and Rex are still here. So those things are all the same. We've got a few more places to eat, but it's basically the same stuff. Now it was Dairy Queen and Little Duffer, now it's Dairy Queen, and we've got the Sonic and with Johnny B's, and those things were, the Little Duffer used to be the greatest place in the world, and now that's where Dairy Queen is, and Dairy Queen does a great job. It's just growing. There's a lot more traffic, which I think one thing that's good is maybe there's not quite as many kids walking before and after school, as the traffic is a lot worse now than it was when I was growing up.
So what's your current occupation?
I am a 5th grade teacher at Nelson Elementary, which is also where I went to elementary school at.
How long have you been a teacher then?
This is my 7th year.
What have you seen? What changes have you seen in the schools?
Well, I've been a school teacher for 7 years. I've coached at the high school. I'm in my 15th year of coaching swimming at the high school. And I also coach volleyball at the middle school, so I see them at all ages. But honestly, what the kids are exposed to is much different now than it was then. I would say even in the past 7 years, I would say the 5th graders I had 6 years ago, because this is my 6th year in 5th grade, are probably behave more and have been exposed more to kids that were maybe in the 6th grade 6 years ago. I mean, it's just changed in that amount of time. They're just exposed to a lot more things, and unfortunately, I think a lot of times they're forced to grow up a lot faster than we were.
Let's move on to a different subject. Tell me about your family.
My family. My mom and dad moved here. First off, they bought a house near Nelson on Alice Street. And Dad got a job, I believe my dad got a job at the junior high, but shortly after that happened, he got drafted. So they let him out of the mortgage on the house and everything, and my mom and him moved to New Mexico for 3 years, where they had my older brother. Then they moved back to Hayesville, and they moved on to Van Arsdale, where they are now. I believe they moved back in 1957. Dad was involved in the school district as an employee for 40 years before he retired a few years ago, where he's now, present time, he's president of the school board. My mom's very active in the church. As of right now, they are members of the Hayesville United Methodist Church. She's a member of the historic committee right now. My dad has been on council. He has been mayor. My older brother graduated from campus, as did my older sister. My brother lives in Pretty Prairie now and still makes it back for family events all the time with his family. My sister lives just south of town. She works in the school district as a Title I para. They're just real grounded. We have a very close-knit family.
And you're married.
And I'm married.
to...
My wife, Paige, who was Paige Burgess, who grew up just east of town. We have 4 children. Tracy, who we just got done with a round of birthdays. We're done with birthdays February, March, and April, and we're all done. So Tracy just turned 17. My daughter Olivia is 9. I have a son, Dawson, who is 7, and a son, Dane, who is 5. Tracy goes to campus. Olivia and Dawson go to St. Cecilia, and Dane is a proud member of Mrs. Ruth Clark's activities at the library right now. He'll be in kindergarten next year.
Excellent. Why did you choose to raise your family in Hayesville?
Well, with Paige growing up in town, basically, and me too, we like the city. We like the town. We like the people. It's just some place that we liked growing up in, and it was somewhere that we felt comfortable to have our kids grow up in, and that's why we built a house here.
Was there someone in Hayesville who had a significant impact on your life, someone who stands out in your memories?
Well, my dad would be number one. I don't know if by fortune or on purpose or unconscious I've followed a lot in his footsteps. He worked for the school district as a teacher and a coach. I'm a teacher and a coach. He was on council. I'm on council. He was somebody I truly looked up to, and I really wouldn't feel comfortable. I don't want to move away from my parents. Paige's dad lives with us, which he has since day one, and our families are nearby, and so this is just a good place. As far as other people, Ruth Clark had a great impact, not only on me, but on the whole community. She had my brother and sister, and I believe you were with her, before there was kindergarten in the school, just meeting over at her house. So I would have to say she had an impact with me, along with a lot of my teachers.
What are some of your fondest memories of Hayesville?
Well, some of them could get me in trouble. I ran around with a big group of kids that we all graduated together. I remember when I was in 3rd grade was the first year they had the Hayesville Basketball League, and I can remember a lot of the tournaments and the leagues we were on, and things like that. We had pretty successful basketball careers as we went on up through high school. We used to get together and play basketball. I can remember where at the end of Van Arsdale there's a big ditch where there's a house now. It used to rain and it could fill up and it'd turn into like a homemade mudslide into a big pond. I can remember going down there a few times. And just, it was more carefree for the kids. Like I said, there was no video games really. So, you'd spend a summer night just out running around playing hide and go seek or, bombing each other with water balloons or whatever. And it was just really carefree and a good time.
What do you see for the future of Hayesville?
I see growth and prosperity. I think that we've got businesses coming into town, we've got land going up for sale, and it doesn't stay up for sale that long. It's a matter of making sure everybody starts shopping at the new places, that we keep them here, And as long as other businesses see business prospering here, then they're going to come to town. We've still got a lot of areas to grow to the west and to the south. And I feel like we're in the process right now of changing our image. Unfortunately, somehow Hayesville has gotten a bad image in the news for whatever purpose. And the county it seems like sometimes will let some things toward the south end of the county kind of go, so it gets closer to Hayesville and we get that reputation. But I think we're in process of changing that with the railroad project being done and with the new businesses coming into town.
So all in all, you're satisfied to continue to live here and be a Hayesvillian.
Yes, I am. I'm proud to be a Hayesvillian.
Okay, and that is our interview with Steve Crum. He's currently a council member. He's lived in Hayesville all his life. This is the Heritage of Hayesville video series. I'm Marion Renner, and we're talking with Tim and Brooke Azier. Glad to have you here.
Glad to be here.
Now, Brooke, how long have you lived in Hayesville?
I'll be 28 next week, so 28 years.
All your life?
Yes.
And what schools did you go to?
I went to Nelson Elementary, Freeman Elementary, the junior high, and then campus.
All the way through?
Right.
Do you have an elementary teacher that stands out in your mind?
Ruth Clark, my kindergarten teacher, yes. But all of them were memorable.
Excellent. Anyone else?
I was going to say my second grade teacher was Mrs. Bazance, Mrs. Baker, Mrs. Limes. I could list them all.
I hope I don't have the same questions. I don't think I can remember all of mine.
Right. Well, but I want to ask you, when did you originally come to Hayesville?
I think in '87, after my parents got married. And I think that I had the last 2 months of second grade at Nelson, and then we moved over to the other side of town and I started Rex in the third grade.
So who was your favorite teacher then?
Again, I couldn't tell you exactly who I had or where I sat or who I sat next to like Brooke could. But, I remember a lot of the teachers once I got into junior high. Not so much in...
Well, who was it in junior high then? Let me know.
We had Mr. Simmons together. I enjoyed that class quite a bit.
Honor social studies.
Right. And Mr. Atkinson, I always enjoyed his band classes. And when I was at Freeman, I had Miss Desmarto for...
DeMarto, yeah.
Yeah. And I think I had her for summer school one summer where I had computer classes. I had a good time in that class.
Oh, what do you remember most about growing up in Hayesville?
Oh, goodness. Probably, I guess the small community feel, always knowing who was going to be in my class the next year in school. That was always really a lot of fun, having friends from kindergarten all the way through high school. So I think that was probably, one of the best, I guess, memories for me, knowing my classmates, and I'm still friends with a lot of them that I graduated from high school with, so.
Well, did either of you join any other activities in town when you were growing up? Like the swim team or the football league or...
Yeah, I played a lot of baseball.
Baseball league?
Yeah.
And I was a cheerleader in junior high and high school. So.
Oh, all right. So you got to go along with all of the athletic things during high school.
And the football team, yeah.
What year did you graduate?
96.
And you 96?
Yeah.
Yes.
And then when did you get married?
In 03?
Yeah, 2003.
Okay. Had you dated in high school?
No. We weren't even friends in high school.
Oh.
We just
didn't really
kind of ran in different crowds.
Mm-hmm.
Different parallel crowds, really. We had a lot of the same friends, but we just never hung out together.
Right. And then what made you decide to come back to Hayesville to live?
I think when we were getting ready to graduate, we were looking in Wichita and a lot of different places, and we couldn't find what we wanted as far as area and houses that we liked. A lot of the houses that we like were old, and when you get an old house, you've got a small kitchen and you've got small bedrooms and small closets, and it's kind of an awkward floor plan usually. But here we were able to live close to both of our families, and we're fortunate enough to be able to build the kind of house that we wanted to build in a nice area, and not have to worry about crime being too close. Or
Do you have children?
we do.
Yes, Eli, he's 6 months old,
Okay.
brand new baby.
Brand new baby.
Yeah.
You plan to send him to the Hayesville schools when he gets older?
Definitely.
There will be some new schools
Yes,
by the
I'm
time.
sure he won't be going to the same schools we went to.
No.
I don't think so. Yeah. How has Hayesville changed since you were growing up here?
You want to take the lead on that?
What have you seen? What changes have you
We've
seen?
seen a couple tornadoes come
Yeah,
through
right.
here, so buildings have come and
A
gone.
big starting over, right? I think a lot of it is, you're getting a lot more new houses now, a lot more expansion, and it doesn't. And maybe it's just because I was young and I didn't pay attention to it, but I don't remember there being a lot of new building going on at all when I was younger, either in high school or junior high. It seems like there was, everybody I knew either lived on Ranger or over here and Timber Lane and Willow and all those places, but there wasn't any of that new development down to the south. Our area wasn't there. The new area, Peachtree, the apartments over behind the church weren't there. None of that. That seems to be all brand new since we went to college. All that stuff started up.
Yeah.
But does it still feel like a small community to you?
I think
or-
it does. I think that expansion is great for Hayesville, but it doesn't seem like it's any bigger than it was before. There's just more options. Yeah.
What would you like to see in Hayesville? How would you like to see the town grow?
I think definitely some more businesses. It would be nice to have more economic development. A restaurant that could, stay in business. And
I think everybody wants a restaurant.
a restaurant that could, serve the population of Hayesville, so we didn't, you don't have to go as far into Wichita to get those kind of services. I think that would be nice. But I wouldn't want it to lose the small town feel that we have.
Is
That's
that
the main reason that we came back to raise our family.
because of the field that Hayesville has?
The kids can go play, and you don't have to worry about.
The sense of security.
You have to worry more about, getting into snakes or something like that more than you would have to worry about anything else. We kind of like that quite a bit.
It's kind of a sense of security, a
Right.
good place to be.
Yes.
Oh, we're glad you came back to Hayesville. My goodness. Do you remember? I'm trying to jog your memory somehow. What about Riggs Park? What happened to in Riggs Park? Ever go over there for the festivals or for any of the other activities?
We'd go over for Fall Festival
Quite a bit.
quite a bit.
I think that's got a little bigger also since we
We'll
were
see.
young.
Yeah, from growing up, what I remember from Fall Festival, my mom always had a craft booth, so we'd go over there and help her run the craft booth, and we did that every year when we were little. Other than that, I can't really remember a whole lot about that.
And you said your parents still live here in town? And how do they feel about living in Hayesville? Do they feel like they'd like to move, or are they content to stay
I
where
don't
they
think my
are?
mom and dad would ever move. I think they're going to be here for quite a while.
They got all the kids live here now, so we
Yeah.
tell them that they can't move. We all came back.
It's nice to see that people will come back to the place where they grew up. There has to be something positive going on if you all are coming back.
Definitely.
And you mentioned earlier what you like about Hayesville. You like the security. Is there anything else that you like about living here?
Well, I think we like being close to the families. That's I
Right.
mean that's really important to us. I mean, some of our best friends are his parents. We hang out with them all the time. Yeah. But I don't know. It was important to be close to family. We like the feel. I like the schools.
It's nice to go to the grocery store and see people that you know. We lived in Wichita for a couple of summers while we were in school and come back and work up there.
Mm-hmm.
You go to Dillon's and maybe once out of the summer you'd see somebody that you know, but you can go over to the Homeland, whatever it is this week, go to the Homeland and you know, you'll see somebody every time you go, and it's nice to go down and catch up with people, even if it is at the grocery store.
Well, we both work in Wichita, and it's nice to leave the city and come home and kind of leave work behind
Right.
and be, 20, 30 minutes away from work, so it's not so tempting to.
And it's a great
to go
commute.
back.
It's shorter than if you lived out west most times, less traffic.
Where do you work, Tim?
I work at Boffman Company downtown.
Downtown, and you work at,
Folston Siefkin.
and that's
It's in Wichita.
in
It's on the
Wichita
east,
also,
on the
yes,
east
the
side.
law firm.
Yeah.
But you'd rather live out here, and we appreciate it. And it's young people like you that will make our town grow and prosper. Is there anything else you'd like to add about living in Hayesville?
I just think it's a great place. It's a nice, slow pace.
That's for sure.
It's really enjoyable. On Saturday, everybody mows at the same time on Sunday in my neighborhood, and
Get yourself a donut at Noah's.
right, and everybody walks in the evenings, and you catch up with a lot of people that way. And
It's slow paced, but it's got the chance to be really great with economic development and the businesses coming in. I mean, we've seen it, and I mean, just growing up, how much it has changed. Where we didn't have the businesses, but now we've got more things coming in. So I mean, it's nice and slow paced, but it's got the economic, the ability to become a really great place to live and to attract more people.
And we all think so too here. Well, I'd like to thank you for coming in and taking the time to visit with us.
Thanks for having us.
Yes, thanks for having us.
You're welcome. This is the start over. This is the Heritage of Hayesville video series. We're talking with Ruth Clark, a longtime resident of Hayesville. Ruth, your family's had a long history with the city of Hayesville. Tell us about your father, when he came to Hayesville, and what he did here.
Well, my father went to Fringe University, and he graduated at KU, and he was always interested in banking. Well, he got a job in Wichita, and my mother happened to work in the same bank. And he said he married her because of her big brown eyes.
Oh.
But anyway, they got married on the QT. Nobody knew they were going to get married. And then he decided that they would go to Montana, Big Sandy, Montana. My father had homesteaded there before. And so they went to Big Sandy and got a job in the bank there. Well, then World War I came along, and he had to go to war. He never did get overseas, but he was in the Army. And so when he came back, he told Mother that he thought that they should go back to Kansas and look for a place where they could have a bank. And so they came back to this area because my father was he was raised in this area up by Oakville. And so he noticed the little town of Hayesville, which was very small at that time. And he thought that would be a good place to have a bank because there was none there. So he got some people interested, some farmers and some other men, and they invested $11,000 to start a bank.
What year was that?
That was in 1919, and they had deposits of about $2,500. Very small, because the bank then grew, and they had to move it over onto the main drag.
So who ran the bank at that time?
My father, my mother, and then as the kids came along, my brother and my sister. And I was smart. I wanted to be a teacher.
I think we should mention at this time that your parents were Fred and Mabel Stearns.
Right.
That might make a difference.
That might make a difference. Okay.
And as you grew up and your father was the banker, I'd like to know if there was anything exciting that happened while he had the bank.
Oh, yes. I can remember when I was very small, and I probably wasn't more than 5. I don't remember the year for sure. They'd had one bank robbery years before in the 30s, but they saw, my brother and he saw a strange car going around the block. Well, in a small town like Hayesville, if an out-of-state car went around, you knew it. So he came home at noon. They always came home for dinner at noon and closed the bank. And he came home and he said, Ruth, I don't want you going outside today. Well, Dad didn't talk to me like that. I was his baby, and he was very sweet. And so I knew something was wrong, and I peered out of the window a lot after they went back to work to see if I could see anything. Well, they went back to work, and a farmer or two had come in to do business, and Dad told him not to linger too long because he thought probably there was somebody going to try to rob the bank. And Abe Myers came. Abe Myers was head of ran the Myers nursery up on on Hydraulic. And he was in there. And Abe was a big man, 6'6" and probably over 300 pounds. And Dad told him about it. And about that time, a farmer came in and he said, you know, Fred, I came on Grand, wasn't called Grand then, but I came on 71st Street, and I saw this strange car sitting out there about where Grand Lane was, under a tree. And he says, what do you make of that? And my dad told him what they thought. And Abe said, is that right? Let's go get him. And so the farmers got in the car and they went south around the section. And Abe was in his truck and he went just up on 71st Street and towards the west. And he kind of waited until he saw their car was coming, and they pulled in behind that other car, and he pulled in the front of them, and he always carried his gun. He had a shotgun with him, and he jumped out of there and pointed the shotgun at the guys in the car. They were changing their clothes, and they had guns in the bottom of their car. So they foiled that robbery with the help of the farmers.
And you found out about it later because you had to stay at home.
I had to stay at home.
Well, when you were growing up back in the 30s, 40s, what was the population of Hayesville at that time?
55.
55 people.
Now, that doesn't mean that there weren't people coming into town. Like, we went to church at the Methodist Church, and then there was the Christian Church. And we both had probably, we had around 80 that came to church, and they probably did too. But that was carrying all of the farmers from out around that would come in.
So it was a small town for a long time. Then when did it start to grow?
In the 50s, early 50s, there were a couple of builders that came in, and they began to build houses on the other side of the railroad track. They put them up awfully fast. I'm not too sure how well, but they did make a lot of houses. And then north of, we didn't have the school then, but Nelson was back in there.
Mm-hmm.
So,
okay, where did you go to school?
I went to the Little Red Schoolhouse a mile south of town for 8 years. And I walked.
You walked out there?
Yes. And in fact, my dad sent my sister and I in a red wagon pulled by my brother and another fella on the way to school, and it was freezing cold. Dad didn't believe in, taking you everywhere. In those days, you didn't. And we got half a mile, and my sister's hands were just so cold, and she was crying. So we pulled into the Mitchell place, and Mrs. Mitchell, I can remember, took a pan of snow and put my sister's hands in it. And I thought, how stupid. That's cold and that's cold. But that's what they did. And she got her thought out finally, and then she said, well, we don't have a car to take you on to school, but the neighbors on down do. And so we went to the next house, and they took us to school in their Model T Ford, and my brother and the friend went on with the wagon.
They walked with the wagon.
Walked with the wagon. Dad didn't realize how cold it was.
Did he hear about it?
I suspect he did. I don't remember.
You don't know if he said anything to you about it. Well, how did then in the 50s when they started to build all these houses, how did that change your life around here?
Well, at first we kind of resented all these people coming in. We had a nice little community, which was a family. You knew everybody and everybody's business. And when these other people came in, you kind of thought, you know. But soon you came to know them and you realized that, hey, things can't stay as they were always. So we learned to have a lot of new friends.
I understand down where the historic district is now in Hayesville was where the old town used to be, and there was a general store down there that was pretty popular with everyone. Could you tell us a little bit about the Boffman General Store?
Oh, it was a fun place to go, and Mr. Boffman was a character. You bought bologna, you know, he'd just say, well, how much? Oh, about that much, and they'd slice it, you know, just cut it off and wrap it up in a paper. And pop was a nickel. I can remember because I loved Mandalay Punch, which is kind of like grape. And bread was probably 10 cents. And he had cookies in an open container. And so you would reach in there to get your cookie and pay whatever he charged. One day, Mother sent me to the store to get the groceries or whatever she asked me to do. And I was pretty good in math in those days. I wouldn't think so now, but I was. And so Mr. Boffman gave me my change, and I said, Mr. Boffman, you gave me too much. And it made him mad, and he told me to go on home because Mother was expecting me. So I learned never to cross him again.
Never to tell him. I understand that the train used to stop in Hayesville, too. We
Oh,
had
yeah.
a depot?
Yes, we had a depot. When I was a child, though, the depot master lived a couple of houses from us, about 3 houses from us. And he retired, and so the depot was no more. But it was a fun place to go and play in. And my friend Howard Ward, whose father had the blacksmith, he and I used to fix our lunches and go over there and eat lunch, or crawl into an empty car that was on the siding. And my mother, if she knew that, she would not have approved, but I didn't tell her.
Did you ever ride that train from Hayesville to Wichita?
No, I didn't, but it only cost 18 cents to go. And they had I loved how they did the mail, because they had 2 arms come out from this pole, and they hooked the mail sack in there. And so when the train went by, they had a hook, and it pulled the mail inside the train. And then when they brought the mail, they just threw it out, and you had to go get it. And Mr. Boffman was also the postmaster at that time.
And so he'd run across the street and get the mail.
Right.
Okay. Now, you said you went to the Little Red Schoolhouse.
Yes.
And then when you graduated, was it all 8 grades out there?
8th grades. There were 4 grades in a room. There were 2 rooms.
And then when you went to high school?
I went to East High. I didn't want to. My sister and brother went to Derby. And this year that I graduated, the kids were going to go to Clearwater. And I was really looking forward to that. And Dad said, well, your brother and sister just messed around in school, and you're going to get an education, and you're going to go to Wichita. Oh, I hated it. So I had to ride with the milkman, and I went to Allison first in the 9th grade. And, I was the first child in that school that every day, every day. Only me and the janitor were there. And I would go into the restroom, I'd just bawl. And then I'd have to look like I hadn't bawled and come on out to go to school. Well, at the end of that year, I had made some friends, and they were all going to North. So Dad lowered the boom on me and said, "You're not going to North, you're going to East." And I said, "But Dad, I know all these kids. That doesn't matter. Uncle Benny Truesdale is the vice principal of East, and Gladys Leland was the counselor, and he knew both of them, and he knew they'd look after me like they would with 601 in my class." But anyway, he had to pay tuition to go, and so I know it burdened him a little bit. And I went through the same thing again. I had to go there early. I would ride with a man downtown Wichita and catch a bus out there. And oh, I hated that first 6 months. I just hated it. But then I got acquainted with some of the people, and I even got on student council finally. And so was Linwood Sexton, and I don't know whether you've heard of him. He was a great football player in Wichita and went to WSU later, and very, very good black gentleman. And so he and I were in the same homeroom, and we'd get out of student council, and he'd say, "Ruth, we're not going back to the room. You stand out here with me." He didn't ever want to go back into the classroom, but he was a fun man. And so
You were talked a lot about your father, but I know that he did a lot more than just run a bank in Hayesville. What else did he do for Hayesville?
Well, he was the first mayor, 1952. But he really, Dad didn't like a lot of notoriety. He was a very humble man. And so after 3 years, he didn't want to run again. And John Trout ran, and also a man, I can't think, Tobin. And Tobin was spread a lot of dirt around about and the mayor. And Dad would have just ignored it. But he finally decided that what this Tobin was doing was ruining the image of Hayesville. And he loved the people here, and he did not want that to happen. And so he wrote a letter to the Eagle, and I read it just this week to refresh my memory. And Dad could get up on his high horse if he needed to, and he did. He let this Tobin know that, and Tobin called him later and apologized because he had spread some things that were not true. And I think John Trout won in the election.
Now, the little bank that he started, I know we have it down in the historic district,
Yes.
or a replica.
Mm-hmm.
And then where did he move the bank to when it got too big?
On Grand.
On Grand.
Mm-hmm.
Is it still there?
It's still there. It is Intrust. I couldn't even remember. Yes, it's now Intrust Bank.
But that's comes from Fred Stearns, that
Yes.
bank there, the
Right.
building of it and everything.
Right. When it was at the little bank, it was run just by my dad and my mother and my brother and sister. But then they ended up over here, and they had 46 employees.
Oh my. And you decided to go into teaching.
Right.
When did you start teaching?
Well, I really started when I graduated from college, and I also went to Friends. That's where I met my husband. Well, I didn't know him then. I saw him, and he went to Friends. Yeah, we both went to Friends. I was thinking of East High. He went to East too. I didn't know him at East, and we got married in '46, and I had 2 more years to finish in college. And then 1948, I thought it would be fun to come back here and teach. And Mrs. What was her name? Elizabeth Kirby. And she said, "Ruth, you don't want to go back to your hometown." She was the principal at that time.
Mm-hmm.
She says, "You don't want to go back to your hometown you try to get a job somewhere else. So I went to Wichita, and I got into a first grade, first and second, really, because I had 2 classes in the one room. And I taught at College Hill for 2 years. And then we decided that we would raise our family. So we had 3 children. And then I talked my husband into bringing his hardware store back to this town. And he had one at 808 East Douglas in the part of Old Town up there. And so he brought it down here in 1955, and we built a home right behind it. And he said, you know, it's going to be pretty hard. We've got 3 kids, and the hardware's not going to do real well at first. So he talked me into starting a private kindergarten. There was only one other private kindergarten. There was no kindergarten in the schools system. So I went to school that summer and got some training, and then I started a private kindergarten, which I operated for 7 years. The last year I had 64 students, 32 in a class. Of course, I had help, but it was a fun time for me. And then I thought, well, I'll bet they're going to have kindergarten in the schools pretty soon, so I better get my foot in the door. So I went out and talked with the superintendent, and he told me what subjects I needed to freshen up with, and I went back to college and did that, and they hired me as a first grade teacher, or really, first year it was a readiness type of program they wanted us to have. And then I did teach first grade until kindergarten came in, and that's when I met you.
That's right. That was a long time ago.
That was a long time, 1963.
Well, you're not still teaching.
No, I'm at the Hayesville Community Library as children's librarian, and I love it.
You're
because
still
I'm
working with
still
little
with little ones.
What should people remember most about Hayesville?
Well, I think the friendliness of the people, and I see that at the library an awful lot. We're not a wealthy community. We're not like Derby. We have not built up with lots of businesses. I would like to see more businesses, but we are a friendly group of people. And for the most part, because we have so many churches here, we are a faith-bound population. That's the way I feel, anyway.
Well, Ruth, we certainly appreciate your coming in, taking the time, and visiting with us. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.